I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. All right. We have our clerk please call the roll. Present.
Councilmember Alders.
Here.
Councilmember Blake.
Here.
Councilmember Greenberg.
Here.
Councilmember Rainville.
Present.
And we also have City Planner Stockman, Administrative Assistant Lisa Lawrenson, Fire Chief Dave Schmidt, and Lieutenant Andy Knotts from the Anoka County Sheriff's Department.
Welcome. Thank you all. We do have an opportunity for floor items, so if anybody would like to speak to floor items, something that's not on the agenda tonight, please sign up in the back. If you haven't signed in, please sign in the back there. We also have a copy of our agenda and what's in our packet here. There is one copy at the back. If you want to see what we're looking at, that's available in the back of the room also. If you do have something that you would like to share, the floor items, we ask you to come to the podium, give us your name, your address, and you have 3 minutes to entertain the council with your concerns. So, with that, we will amend or approve tonight's agenda. Has anybody got anything they'd like to see amended?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Rainville.
I would like to, under consent agenda, pull item A, the city council meeting minutes of 8/10, and C, the resolution 2021-28, the donation from the Elk River Youth Association, Hockey Association.
All right.
In addition, I would like to ask if we can amend the item D that is asking for additional hours for the recycling center attendant, that the RCA be amended to, that is at a cap of 32 hours a week, so we stay within that part-time parameters. And under number 7.
Well, let me just ask, since that is put in by the clerk treasurer, is that amenable to you?
Yes.
Mike? Okay.
And then under number 7, planning and zoning, item C, letter C, I would ask that to be pulled for further review. And letter D, I would like the process diagram checklist be pulled, and that we schedule a separate meeting to have that discussion. That's going to be a detailed discussion, and we had a late meeting last night, and I just see that bringing this meeting quite late if we have that discussion.
So you would like those both moved to a work session?
Yes. So I would think the October, whatever, Tuesday, Thursday before our meeting would be in October.
And what was your request on item C of consent agenda?
I would like to find out what we're doing there, just more detail before I approve the acceptance of money based on a request that I don't really know what that request is going to entail, if it's something that's going to work, if it's, or we can just pull it separate and I'll not vote on it.
So at this point, we would move consent items A and C down to the bottom of the council items.
So what are you saying? I don't understand. Excuse me, Mr.
You'd like to
Mayor.
pull those 2 items out for discussion rather than just consider them under consent. And so she's requesting to move items A and C down to the council section. They would become council H, E, F, G, H, and K, H, I, sorry. And then item D on the consent agenda, it's as presented in the packet, but just to amend the RCA to cap at 32 hours for so right now, the attendant is working 24, so somewhere during the week, as staff needed him, he could work another 8 hours. But that keeps him at the part-time status.
Okay.
And Lori said she's okay with that. So, A and C move down to council. H and I. D is amended to cap hours, and the recommendation is to pull items 7C and D and move to an October work session, which would be October 7th. All right, anything else for amending the agenda? Seeing and hearing none, I will accept a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
So move.
We have a motion, Councilmember Rainville. Do we have a second?
I second.
I have a second from Councilmember Greenberg. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Good.
Okay, so that's unanimous? Okay. The motion carries unanimously. Floor items. Didn't see anybody sign up for floor items. So, our guest speaker for the evening, Lieutenant Andy Knotts.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Rainville.
we need to vote on the consent agenda. We voted on the amending it, but we need to vote on the consent agenda.
Oh, I thought I motioned the consent agenda as amended.
Oh, I apologize, I
Yeah.
misunderstood.
The
All right,
motion was
sorry.
the consent agenda as amended.
All right, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Just trying to make you a little more nervous.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members, city staff, and community residents. Thank you for having me this evening. Got some feedback here. Filling in for Commander Heath, going to present the Sheriff's Office report for the month of August here. Just realized I forgot my cheers, so hopefully I can let's get to that.
We'll see what you've memorized.
I can hold it for you.
So the city of Nowden for the month of August had 133 calls for service. And of those calls for service, we had 5 calls to bar none, 2 alarms, 14 medicals, 7 animal type calls. Specifically, our bar none calls for service included 4 juvenile runaway reports and then 1 assault report. We had a few noteworthy calls during the month. That is really bad, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is your green light on up there?
It's red.
Oh, push the button,
Push the
maybe
button.
that'll help you.
Is that better? Oh, there we go. All right. On August 12th, a deputy had conducted a traffic stop while pulling a vehicle over for an unsecured load in the 8,000 block of Viking Boulevard, just right out here. Through that investigation, it was determined that the driver was canceled, inimical to public safety, and had warrants for their arrest. The trailer that was being towed with that vehicle was found to be stolen. The driver was subsequently arrested and jailed on all the relevant charges, stolen trailer warrants and driving violations. There happened to be a second vehicle that was following that vehicle at the time, driven by an adult female who happened to pull in at the traffic stop location, and she was ultimately found to be driving after revocation, and she was charged with that offense as well. On August 21st, we had a deputy that conducted a traffic stop on a known individual, again, that was canceled and inimical to public safety. After initiating that traffic stop, the driver had pulled over and immediately fled on foot. The deputy gave chase and short while later apprehended the suspect. During the course of investigation with that vehicle that was involved, found evidence of illegal drug paraphernalia, drugs in the vehicle, and that person again was subsequently arrested and jailed on those offenses. On August 25th, our deputies were dispatched to the area of 85th Avenue and Nowden Boulevard on a report of a suspicious nude male laying in the roadway. I guess just kind of an oddball type of call. Prior to deputies' arrival, the complainant in this case was reporting that this person was getting dressed by the time deputies arrived, and we actually had assistance by the Ramsey Police Department. They arrived on scene. The male was uncooperative, wouldn't identify who they are, and so forth. Through the investigation and being uncooperative, the suspect in this case was ultimately arrested for obstruction and jailed on that offense as well. So, and then on August 26th, one of our deputies was dispatched to the 9000 block of 203rd Avenue to check the welfare of an intoxicated male that happened to be calling 911. They were speaking incoherently to the dispatcher. They didn't know what was going on, sent the deputies out. Deputy arrived at the scene, made contact with the driver, or excuse me, of the caller in his doorway of his residence. Still not making a whole lot of sense. Deputies trying to verify who he is during that course of investigation found out he basically called on himself. He's got warrants for his arrest, subsequently arrested, brought to jail on those warrants. So I don't know, just a couple oddball calls.
What was the phase of the moon during all of these?
I should go check the phases of the moons, right? So.
I do want, for the record, for people that are watching online here, I think that's the first naked person walking around now then that we've had calls on. So if it's been happening before, nobody's been calling, but.
It's not a common call, I'll tell you that.
I know.
So, again, we honestly have no idea what the heck that was about. Wouldn't talk to the deputies, cooperate in any manner. But at least they got dressed. So. That's pretty much all that I have for you today. Is there anything that I may try to answer for the council? I'll try my best. Again, I'm filling in for Commander Heath, but if you have any questions.
When is our meeting with the Sheriff's Department to talk over the 2020?
We got a note this week that the sheriff is back and available, so now we can set up a new schedule. So.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks for the help.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Do you want me to turn this back then to?
Please.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
So on our agenda next is financial. So Bruce Kimmel, I'm assuming he's not going to be here tonight?
He's going to be here at 7:30 because I told him not to plan until around 7:45 to come.
Okay.
So he'll be here in about 15 minutes.
Okay. We will move on to the fire department.
Mayor and council, before you tonight is a request to declare some surplus property, specifically the old gear grid lockers, as part of the fire station addition. New gear grid lockers were ordered and installed and are now functional. So we no longer have use for the old gear grid locker system. Chief Koner from the Ramsey Fire Department did call and express some interest in purchasing those lockers. The second piece is the MSA 5 gas monitor. The typical monitor that we would use for the capacity of the training level of the fire department would be a 4 gas monitor. The 5 gas monitor provides another metric in monitoring hazardous materials, which we don't have a use for. So the recommendation, and we already have purchased a new 4 gas monitor. So the recommendation would be to declare that 5 gas monitor as surplus as well. And we believe there's some interest from the Anoka County Hazmat team to purchase that unit. Before you are in front of you with the RCA is the assumed value of each one of the items. And we request that we declare this property surplus and release it from our inventory from the fire department. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
So on the gear grid lockers, we have 2.
Correct.
And then you repurposed another one?
Correct. So the third one was part of Bart's Memorial, and we wanted to make sure that we preserved that. So we had a couple firefighters cut that locker out of that gear grid, and it's now back in the station as just a single locker dedicated to Bart.
Yep. All right. So accept a motion to approve this RCA as requested. I'll make a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a motion by the mayor and a second by Councilmember Alders. Do we have any discussion? Any questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Rainville.
to Chief Schmidt, I'm assuming that you'll handle the process on all of that, and,
Correct, and we'll create invoices and make sure that any payment or funds go directly to Lori, and council can decide the best placement for those funds.
all right, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Before you escape, we have a question that'll come up later. Do you have a landline phone still in the fire station?
Excellent question. I guess honestly, I've never looked. So I will run over there now and take a look, and I can shoot you a message.
Okay,
There
and
is
then,
one, I don't know if it's working though, if it has a tone, if it's being used.
Okay.
and then from internet usage, what do you need?
As far as bandwidth,
Yeah, speeds?
so my understanding is we're currently being serviced by CenturyLink for internet over there. The current speed of the internet, I would say, is less than what we would hope for, but as far as giving you a metric or data on how fast it ought to be. So
Do
am I,
do you have any idea if you need any upload speed? Are things going out from you?
Potentially, yes. So we run a couple different pieces of software. FDM is our main database for all of our incident reports, and serves as our database for all of our records. There could be a reasonable expectation that with some stronger bandwidth or stronger speeds, we could utilize that more effectively, whether that's uploading fire investigation photos and attaching those to runs. That certainly would be helpful. The CAD software would probably stand to benefit from a more rapid internet connection over there. So if there's an option to upgrade service over there, we would make use of it.
That will be one of our discussions later tonight as to what's the best option and the need. And it seems like that the providers offer phone packages as well. We have a phone here. I have no idea if it still works or not. Most people have cell phones, so.
Yeah.
But if there's a need, we just want to make sure that.
Yeah, I guess we all get so accustomed to not having landlines anymore that I guess I never even looked. So I would assume there is, but.
There might not even be a phone on the wall.
Right.
I don't know.
So I'll run over there and
Okay.
send a message over and let you know.
Do you need a landline?
We should. There's not too many circumstances locally where we've seen critical infrastructure failure regarding cellular technology, but it has happened. Certainly 9/11 is one of those examples where there was massive cellular network failures. For redundancy's sake, it's probably not a bad idea. I think the other part of this discussion should center around the future long-term of the fire department, if it makes sense having a landline there, and I think it does if eventually somebody's officing out of there on a regular basis. It would probably make sense to leave a landline there. I can't imagine the cost for landlines is a significant impact on the city budget at this time, so. And again, redundancy piece, if for whatever reason we had a cellular network failure, you have something, so.
All right. Any questions for the chief before we let him slip out? Councilman Rainville?
I would have a question for Ms. Strike. Do we know, are we paying for a landline there?
I'd have to pull the bill. I don't know. We're not paying for one right now
Okay.
at the fire station.
Okay.
I know that.
All right, good.
And I know there was some confusion if the Zayo network is there and if it's
Right.
functional and,
It's there, but it's not being used,
Okay.
and it's not being paid for. We're
Okay.
not, until it gets used.
right.
So stats in the last month, hiring, where are we at?
I've had
For
three,
the record, that was Councilmember Alders.
Councilmember Alders, I've had 3 phone calls with potential candidates. Joe Lawrence has had a couple phone calls as well. We're planning on hitting Heritage Days here at the end of the month and trying to get some interest in that direction. So hopefully we can start to see some applications actually get turned in over the next 2 to 3 weeks. but we have fielded some phone calls and some interest. So we're optimistic we're gonna get some additional bodies in here. And again, like we talked about with the RCA, this is still in its infancy. There's not a lot of people that understand kind of what's going on and what's happening and what the requirements are. So we do anticipate that as we get the word out a little bit more, that will generate some more interest as we go.
I wanted to compliment the fire department in general. The little bit we get, and when things are more significant, if they might make the news, typically either Joe or Assistant Chief Lawrence or Commander Heath will contact the council and let us know. So if the media does contact us, we know where to refer things to. But I will say, even with what we've been hearing, and I'm sure it's not, a fraction of what the calls you've had, but in 5 months, it's extraordinary what this brand-new department has had to go through, and very, in some cases, dramatic situations. So hopefully their mental health and their emotional health is being taken care of.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I would expect, I'm speaking for the whole council here, that you would compliment them that we do understand they have a daunting task. It's a young department with experienced people, and we're very appreciative of what they've been doing on our behalf. So.
We have scheduled a mental health awareness deep dive training for September 22nd for all staff, both day and night. It has been, no pun intended, trial by fire for the first 5 months of this organization. They have been tasked with some very heavy calls and responsibilities very early into this without having that 2 other station resource that Ramsey brought to the table. And I've said it before, and I will continue to say it, this department has stood up extremely well. And from my perspective, being in the fire service for the last 26 years, I can't tell you how impressed I am with how everybody has responded. And this was a long process, and we had to go through a long-term courting period. We had to build trust. They had to put some faith in us that we were going to do the right things, and we were going to listen, and we were going to set them up for success. And the way that they've responded has been absolutely amazing. And that's a testament to them. That's not a testament to Joe and I. We've just cleared the path, and they've done the heavy lifting, and they've done it remarkably well.
Well, we greatly appreciate everything that they've been through, for them to come in with the enthusiasm that they have and the professionalism they've demonstrated. Because hey, it's a big deal not have 2 stations backing you up on everything.
Correct.
So we do appreciate it. So if you extend our appreciation, we
Absolutely.
thank you.
Absolutely.
Right, anything else for the chief?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Rainville.
I would just like to thank the chief for your participation in the Heritage Festival.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Have a good night.
Hopefully a quiet one.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll move on to planning and zoning.
Mr. Mayor, since Mr. Jensen is here, could we just take item 2 first?
No,
Or
we'll
B,
just have to wait his turn. Yes, we can.
So, this lot split was discussed at planning and zoning meeting, and they recommended approval with some changes to the survey and to parcel B. I did include findings so that you could see what the recommendations were. Mr. Jensen is hoping you will at least provide feedback on the amended survey. And because he has not provided complete lot buildability information, I hesitate a little bit to approve without that, although the way it's written, you could condition it upon that. But primarily, he wants some feedback regarding the realignment of parcel B to allow for a future street to go east-west through this property.
So the specific question regarding the realignment. So we're on 7B,
7B, con,
and it's Kant's,
lot split.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Rainville.
I just have a question from Ms. Stockman. So I'm looking at these two documents, and the first you have city council findings and decisions, minor subdivision. But on the back of it, it has the motion by Chair Ames, second by Hapola. So it's the P and Z findings and facts.
The council's got a duplicate of.
Yeah, I don't, so if there are any changes to what was presented at P and Z, I don't have those in front of me because these are the exact same documents.
I normally give, one set of each, and you didn't get that? They
No,
were
it
they were
actually says,
identical.
that's the Hopala Ames and signed by the chair. So our copy has the last page. The first pages are all the same as the findings for planning and zoning. And the last page is also planning and zoning, so we didn't get a council copy. So I
Interesting.
think what
Okay, well, my
Councilmember Rainville's
apologies
saying
for
is
that.
if there's changes between planning and zoning and council, we don't know what they
Do you
are.
have this?
Right, did you get a copy of the survey though?
On this back like this.
Oh,
Did
you
you?
did, oh, Mary, okay.
Yeah, on the back
Go
page,
back one more and a couple more. and see.
This one?
yes.
Oh, but we didn't get that size.
The first page,
There.
the city council findings, the only issue
Look in
is
front of
that
that
it's
one.
got the planning and zoning signature page on the back.
And I could, Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Rainville?
and I could not find any differences between them, so if there were changes made by P and Z, I don't see any changes in here, so.
No, there were not, so
Okay,
they were
okay,
identical, so we're
okay.
good there if
All right.
if you've read through those.
Okay, so they should be the same except for the last page.
Correct.
Okay.
And then parcel B, you should have the survey that shows a little space allowing for a future road above parcel B there, which was the recommendation of planning and zoning.
All right, so the question
In the
that
back.
Mr. Jensen would like to address is what? Just
If I-
confirming that the council's okay with that?
Correct, with the realigned lot lines. Go ahead, I'll let him speak if he wants.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Donald Jensen representing the Coons Trust. What we had in front of the planning commission, including all of the background data that we felt was asked of by the city, including septic borings over 6 different locations, and in our narrative and the explanations that because of the depths, although they weren't the 3 feet, they were anywhere from 14 inches to 18 inches, that the home buyers on any approved lot would merely need to add the fill, and that's repeated as part of your staff comments. So we're not going to go searching for any additional locations that might be 3 feet at no fill. That was our premise, is that since that has been generally how septics are solved, and given your current criteria, you find the depth and you have to add the fill, that was therefore proving the buildability. Now, what we weren't interested in doing is going and drilling a lot more new test locations, not knowing whether you're going to approve it in this new configuration that was asked for 2 weeks ago. We drew so that you could see it, so you can approve it. And our interest has long been stated as being, we want parcel A because you have a buyer for a new resident. And that did have locations at their relative preferred location to build in by the deer shack on the north end and the highest part of that property. So we'd like to not have an approval that just continues to stand an additional series of small steps that are yet to be achieved before you can vote on it. If I'm making myself somewhat clear, we certainly would like your approval tonight as far as you can go on the administrative lot split that was applied for the 3 parcels, knowing that parcel B has been redesigned, redrafted to comply with what the planning commission negotiated, asked us to do with staff.
And upon council approval, whatever conditions we put on that, then you
Yeah.
would look to the buildability of that lot.
Correct. And so with that, we just had a couple of small clarifications on the list of conditions. Since it's drafted, it's been a tight window for us to review
console for yourselves as well, so we appreciate your consideration of that. It is our belief that once in a while council can amend for text clarity or as in the spirit of negotiation, duplication. And so if you're open, I'd like to at least ask those questions. As it relates to the conversation and the conditions, the third parcel, that is the agricultural parcel, is being asked to not allow any building to happen on it because it's agricultural. But there is then a request to also pay a park fee for which there's no residence there on the parcel by condition. So it seems one of those two is not well coordinated in our thinking, and certainly in the ownership for the trust from a fiduciary point of view. If they pay the fee, then they can certainly search for a buildable location at some point when it comes out of ag, and then know that their park fee has been paid. I think their preference is, as long as it's going to be cropped, they would prefer to pay the park fee once a further subdivision or a building permit on that parcel is applied for, after whoever is going to build on it then finds their most desirable home site.
And that's item 16 on the conditions.
Correct.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Rainville.
to Ms. Stockman, clarify for me, so we're asking $2,500 for 3 lots, but there's already one there, so only making 2 new ones. We're not touching that other one, so wouldn't it not just be 2 new lots instead of 3?
No, Ms. Rainville, the way that the ordinance reads, we would typically do that if there's a house on a parcel, not a vacant piece. The ordinance is very clear that it says 3 new parcels. 3 parcels, total parcels equals new parcels when they all have a new description like that.
Okay.
And what was discussed was that they could sell parcel C at any time, whether it's ag or not, and somebody could build on it, so it is a buildable lot of record. I mean, we were okay with waiving the wetland buffer rules and allowing them to farm the smaller wetlands until such time as it's built, but I guess it's up to you ultimately, but the way the ordinance reads is it is considered a new lot.
And I thought that we'd had this come up before, might have been over on the Hammer property. But it would seem that it's going to stay in ag, and if somebody did buy it to build on it, at that point, we're adding a home, and they would typically be expected to pay the park and trail fee.
No, incorrect. You can only acquire the park fee at the time of subdivision. You
So-
cannot acquire that when they come in for a building permit.
So if somebody went and built on that lot, just a single home, we can't.
No, you cannot acquire that at that time. So we can always have them pay it and give them credit if they split later. We can give them credit for one lot when they split again. But, I mean, it is technically a buildable parcel.
Okay. You know, the recommendation here, based on the foregoing information, applicable ordinance, the city council approves a minor subdivision subject to the following conditions. We've got 17 conditions. Are you familiar with all 17?
We are, and many of them are already satisfied. They're just repeated for your clarity. We've got an Anoka County Highways authorization, we've done our wetlands, the min-rems are done. The NOD was done well over a month ago and issued. They clarified it's not for a self-storage site, it's for the Coons Trust. Somehow in their typing of one piece or another, they didn't carry forward the proper word processing. So it referenced the Coons Trust in one line, but somebody else in another line. So it's been in an approved system for quite some time. All of the others are just clarifying your normal ordinance processes. So.
And Planner Stockman, what was your concern about moving ahead?
Typically, Mr. Mayor, the lot buildability is shown on the survey. But we know in this case that they do not have the proper separation to modeling, so they have to bring in fill. They're gonna have to show that on here, basically a graded pad to show the appropriate areas of separation. It's your call whether you're comfortable with that, you wanna see it beforehand. And either way, they're gonna have to bring in fill to create the buildable, the separation.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Alders.
so a problem with that is they don't know exactly where the home is gonna be, right?
10-4, you know, it's a 5-acre and an 11-acre parcel.
So that's why they don't, so just depending on where they wanna put it is where the fill's gonna be added, or?
Well, no, they still have to
But that's-
show a spot, even though they could change it later, they could regrade, right, when the actual building permit's pulled. But they have to show the buildability, for us to approve it in order to be recorded.
And Mr. Jensen, you don't have a problem with that requirement if we approve the realignment of the
Right, we've
lots.
already done the preliminary borings, there's 6 that were submitted in the planning commission packet, they're all on the survey in places that were the likely
Right.
home sites, on the higher knobs, and so one of those still does happen to be. We'd like not to hold up the processing of the split so that the owner, future owner of A can get going, knowing it would be happening. Then they can finalize a house location and do the new test borings in that case. If the standard use of the soil septic engineer who started this, who's done most of them now then, is septic, he's merely gonna state the remaining fill will be provided in this location, so, that we've started in. And the square might change, it just does seem a little bit ahead of the curve. We'll do our best, as we've always done, to say these are where we believe somebody will go, but to the councilman's point, without knowing specifically on parcel B, we're just picking something and hoping that the home site gets close. And it might change by 2 or 3 inches somewhere or another.
Okay. Council, like any further clarification?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Alders.
Help me with parcel C again. Item 11 says a building permit shall not be prohibited for building C unless a buildability, septic information, park and trail fee is paid. But Liz is saying parcel C is a buildable lot based on how it's gonna go down as a system of record.
Well, right, so,
With the same understanding as A and B, that they'll have to figure it out and do the lot or the soil separation.
yeah, so the ordinance is clear, the subdivision ordinance requires any new lot that you prove buildability. So otherwise, while we can't plat, sometimes in a plat, they're shown as an outlot, which wouldn't be a developable lot, but, so, yeah, they really should prove buildability for parcel C, which would just be graphically showing it. Like he said, they've already got some soil borings, to,
On parcel C
on
as well.
parcel C, right.
And Mr. Jensen, the difficulty of proving Lot C buildable?
Not so long as there's no question that where we've already done the soil borings, somebody's just gonna bring in the necessary difference of soil, which we thought that was the proving of buildability by submitting the soil records at the preliminary logs level in the past. So, if we need to
Is that sufficient?
change a
Liz?
letterhead type and a note, we'll be able to do that tomorrow.
Well, it's graphically shown on the survey, so I'll assist you with that process.
Sure.
I'm glad to do that.
I guess
But
what we've
it-
shown is the dot where the borings were located. We'll widen the graphic so that it makes the 23,000 square feet shown. Probably makes sense. If it were a real septic system, you'd probably go to the 4, 5, 6 corners, but recognizing that we're proving the buildability of it, we'll be able to make the shape work out. Since everybody in this room understands it's not a real house, it's to satisfy a subdividing process versus a building permit process.
Planner Stockman, is that sufficient?
That is sufficient, yes, yes.
Right.
So then if we have 3 buildable lots, do we have 3 park and trail fees?
Correct.
Well, according to Planner Stockman, that's the only time we can collect those as we're splitting here, so. I always thought when they come to build the home, that's when we would collect the. So if somebody builds on 5 acres, we don't get a park and trail fee?
No, they have to pay the park and trail fee before they record it. So we collect that before we'll let them record a plat or a split.
But if there's a 5-acre parcel right now that's just for sale, they're not splitting anything, they're not.
Oh,
dividing
right,
it.
yeah, we can't collect it now after the fact. If there's a 5-acre lot of record out there, we don't even look to see if if they paid park fee or not. There's really no tracing that unless it was part of a plat. We assume there was, but
Well, it's something we should look at in the future, but we won't tap Mr. Jensen with that, other than, unfortunately, you're gonna get stuck with a third park and trail.
Well, so long as there's, the buildability is not restricted, once we show it, then that's fine. Right now, it was written a little bit in a way that some people would read that and say, well, they can't build on it, but then ownership would say, the family trust will pay another park fee, but we're restricted, so. Presumably, somebody can build on it, and they would find that that's a reasonable price to deal with the way that the septic rules are, so.
And so, with your assistance to Mr. Jensen, Planner Stockman, then we can meet the criteria for 11, the buildability, the septic information, and we've already talked about park and trail dedication.
why don't we add a clause that says pending future division of parcel C, you can get credit for one, the park
Okay.
That'd be
fee.
wonderful, thank you.
Yeah, I don't think there's any problem in achieving this. We just have to show it and get it done and get it recorded.
Our goal, as far as we were asked ahead of everybody coming here, there is an interested buyer for the parcel A. They would like to close by the end of September, so we'll just keep trying to work diligently to, the easements that we referred to for the county, it's pretty straightforward, rectangle. We don't see a difficulty now that we know our shapes are blessed for the legal descriptions, et cetera, so now we can at least communicate and start getting checks moving. Appreciate that.
All right, so
I
taking
was
it
asking,
to,
since there are fresh minds here and an opinion, if you read how parcel A is described, I think they want to be able to understand that if they don't have an intention of splitting, then they don't have to worry about a road being built. But that if they had an intention at some point in the future to split, then they have to deal with this road question. And so I think that was a big issue and a delay in terms of when we applied moving forward. So
that is my understanding, everybody understand that. So the separation between B and A, the original design coming to P&Z had those borders as a shared border. And the long-range plan in that area has an east-west road potentially going through there over to the Paulson property to the east. Paulsons have not indicated any interest in the immediate future in developing there. So the compromise at the planning and zoning was to separate the lots there, leave a chunk of land, and so if at some point lot A, parcel A, was to be divided, as 11 acres it could be divided under current statute, and a road was to go through there, that would be the preferred point. But should they not choose to divide, and even if there's development around them, it's my understanding the city's not forcing a road in there at this point.
So they're kind of naive in land use, and they just would like to know that that's how the average person would read it.
So, Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember
isn't this
Alders.
the discussion we had last year around if a landowner comes in and wants to, if they've got a 40 and they want to split it off to give to a couple kids or whatever, we said we would allow up to 2 or 3 divisions before it would pour in a road and make the road up to standards with the adjoining road.
Oh, you mean the deferral of the street paving thing? That?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was 3 lots total.
So if this became more than a 3-lot split, there'd be some expectation.
We would require, if, let's say parcel C split, we would require a public street to run along the north side of parcel B and toward parcel A, up to parcel A's boundary, so that parcel A had
Street
a
access.
good means to split without using a flag lot or anything else that's awkward.
But at this point, they wouldn't be required to until they're ready to sell.
Correct,
So it
if
would
that-
be
if
a
that's-
temporary
yes.
cul-de-sac similar to Brian's Bend.
Yes.
With the 3 lots, they don't, it's just 3 driveways, right?
Right, yes,
As
exactly.
As
They-
this stands, it's 3 driveways. If you went to split it, subdevelop it more, then street discussions would
I
have to
think
talk.
what we understand
Right.
is that any further subdivision would be a plat process, a sketch plan, a
Right.
whole variety of conversations about what that next context looks like, and that would be then voted upon based on the merits of that plan, not a sketch plan that didn't have proven buildability or any other merits, other than it's a sketch plan to induce conversation.
And that was the discussion at P and Z was, with that in mind, further development does require a road. Where does it go? Rather than now have this problem because you can't get through B and A. You've got a spot between B and A that the road can go up to, and should A decide at some point they want to divide, the road can go through to the next parcel. Until then, it's going to come out to the west and come down to another road, depending on how much land they buy to the west.
Yeah.
But that's beyond the scope of what you're
That's correct.
pursuing at this point.
And I think really what we were discussing quite a bit at Planning Commission and otherwise is that the sketches that were out there floating around as being feasible for you all to evaluate, in our opinion, didn't prove out to be because of the amount of wetlands that were there and all of the current regulations and buildability amongst things. So this was the best way to proceed and still allow investment dollars to go back to the landowners in a variety of ways. So if there's a market for further subdividing of those ag pieces, that's again further conversation and other due diligence that has to happen on its merits then.
All right.
Thank you.
Planner Stockman, anything else we need to know in the 17 conditions that we should be aware of?
No, sir.
All right.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Rainville.
A question to Ms. Stockman. So at the last meeting, based on the training that we had from Attorney Ruby, where are you in the process of getting a sign-off for the homeowners or the property owners accepting that?
I believe that was only for the conditional interim use permits.
That was my understanding.
Oh, okay. My error. All right.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yep, just a special use
Okay.
permit.
No, it's a good question. It's good to be mindful of that. So. All right. Any
Make a
other
motion?
questions? I'll take a motion to,
I'll make a motion to approve the request for approval of the 3-lot subdivision for the PID number 32, 33, 25, 44, 001, with the terms and conditions outlined in the document with the revisions set forth by Liz.
I second it.
all right, we have a motion from Councilmember Alders, a second by Councilmember Blake. Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much for your attention, questions, and time tonight.
Welcome. Thank you for your thoroughness.
Oh, yes.
They pulled H from the agenda.
Let's hope so.
I don't know.
C. They pulled C.
Is that off?
No, last night I was doing it too.
They pulled A and
Okay.
C up
Lisa?
here.
Could you possibly turn that back on? It seems to be when that goes off, it's, yeah, it seems when it's off, it's,
Right next to.
It's on now.
Well, it's right. on-
Okay.
Is it still echoing?
You know.
It's
yes,
echoing, but it's
that
not-
new house is going in there.
It's not whining.
The old farmhouse.
That wasn't the echo, it was
Yeah,
the whistle.
back behind the place.
Yeah, they're right next door.
Oh, they're right
Okay.
next door.
Where is it?
All right. So, we have
Yeah.
Mr. Kimmel with us now,
Yeah.
Okay.
and we're only 5 minutes off from
We should
where we
address
thought
that.
he would be,
Mr.
so.
Crofton, he'll be next, right?
How we doing?
Good for you.
I'm perfect.
That's what I like about that.
Should say it's,
There's some extra copies if you want to take a look at them. Yep.
Liz, is your phone too close to the thing?
Maybe that's it.
Usually feedback comes from a microphone getting too close.
Do you think it's, I'll turn,
No, I was wondering if Liz's phone was too close to it and it was charging.
Yeah, better, it's better now. Liz, it was on your fault. Oh my God.
I think these look all the same. Did you get one of these?
You have an extra?
I like your coat, by the way.
Yeah, isn't it cute?
Fake suede.
It's, it's ultra leather. I like it.
Fake with a capital F.
My daughter Megan just got a fake leather jacket. She
A fancy word
uses
for-
the stuff right now.
Hot stuff.
She's 15. She's got that.
Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you. A little easier to communicate than when I was with you in August. So
That was, yeah, I'm sure it was challenging on your end in particular.
Awesome.
I caught most of it. So I'm getting a little feedback. I
Yeah.
apologize if
16.
maybe I need to. Well, we'll do our best. Oh, that's an idea.
Let's try that.
My cone of isolation.
There you
Might
go.
work. Yeah.
It might be these speakers.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Mayor and council members, I'm Bruce Kimmel with Ehlers, and it's good to be with you to share the results of your really outstanding bond issuance. As you know, you're selling bonds to fund 4 improvement projects, 2 that were completed last year and 2 that are happening this year, as well as funding for fire and other public safety equipment to be determined. And if you want to flip to the inside page of the competitive sale results, we received 4 bids on the city's behalf at 10 o'clock this morning. The best bid from Northland Securities, which you can see on the facing page, had a true interest cost of 0.87%. That's for bonds that go all the way out to February of 2032, so a little over 10 years from now. And if you look at that bid tabulation, you can see that all 4 bids were remarkably close to each other, with even the last place bid from Baird being at 0.97%. So only 10 basis points of difference between the 4 bids. I would also note that when I was talking with you in August, we were estimating a true interest cost of about 1.35, 1.36%. So the winning bid from Northland is almost a full 0.5% better than our estimate. We always try to be a little conservative, but we weren't quite expecting this level of rates, and congratulations to the city on achieving that. I did want to note also with the Northland bid on that bid tabulation, you note the coupons start at 2% and then go down to 1% and rise a little bit from there. That's the face interest rate that you'll be paying on these bonds. But as you can see, your actual yields, the true cost to the city on these bonds, range from 0.15% to 1.15%. So what's going on there? This is an indication of what I was talking about last month with the reoffering premium. So Northland in their bid said, we want those bonds to have a face coupon value of 2%, but we know that's not the market. The market is really 0.15, 0.2%. So they essentially paid you more for the bond issue than the face value of the bond issue. Now, because you didn't need extra money for either the improvement projects or the equipment purchase, we then used the net premium, that extra surplus money, to reduce the size of the bond issue by $150,000. And so that's why the actual amount with the resolution that you'll be approving tonight is $2,680,000. But when we went out to market this morning, the offering amount was $150,000 higher than that at $2.83 million. A few other things I would just like to note. Yeah, of
just-
course.
So just to clarify on that, so we had talked at our budget meeting last night about potentially lowering the amount anyway, because we weren't sure we needed all the money, and then we're gonna try and figure out, do we lower the borrowing, or do we take that money and pay down debt where possible?
Right, so Mr. Mayor, I did have an email exchange with Lori, and Shane. We decided to keep the project funding the same. So the bond reduction that we did today was just in response to that net premium. If you go to the next page.
So it's a win-win.
It's a win-win. Yeah, you got extra money that we were able to use to reduce the bond amount. But if you go to the next page, which is the sources and use of funds, and you look at those 5 individual purposes, you'll notice that the deposit to the project construction fund for each of those is still what we originally targeted. And so if, for instance, Ebony comes in a little bit cheaper than anticipated, or Rogers Lake does, then you'd have some surplus funds that you could use to reduce the debt levy starting next year. And so
That's a good thing.
Yep, it is, especially when money is this cheap, if you will. It's okay to have a little bit of cushion, because then if you don't need it, you can just reduce your levy starting next year for the debt service. I won't go through the debt schedules in a great amount of detail, but on the debt service schedule, this is the aggregate debt service for all 5 purposes. And you can see those coupon rates and the total interest that you'll pay on the bond issue over the 10-year life of it. And then I did include sub-debt service schedules for each of the 4 improvement projects that show the estimated levy requirement, and also for the equipment certificates. One thing I'll note here is that these debt service schedules are keyed off of 105% of debt service. So when you see this levy requirement, that's a little bit inflated because it's taking 105% of debt service minus the assessments to get to that levy requirement. But this is where you can really see, okay, if we have some surplus monies left over on the improvement projects, we can just use that to shave down the city's levy. Yep. And on the last page, I would note that for the public safety and other equipment TBD, you're paying about $100,000 a year for 9 years to pay that, to essentially pay for $850,000 of project funding. So again, I know it's weird, but the par amount on the equipment is only $830,000, but you're actually getting $850,000 out of that for buying equipment and vehicles as appropriate. And that's because of that premium. All right, let me stop there before I just touch on the credit rating. Any questions about the bids we received or the debt service or how it relates to funding any of your projects or acquisitions?
No, it's definitely good news.
Yeah, it's great news. And that's a great segue because what really facilitated this was the credit rating. You have a really sterling credit rating with your AA+ rating. It's really pays dividends, so to speak, and will for years to come. And you really passed the rating process with flying colors. Lori did awesome work helping our team prepare the official statement for the bond issue, and then Lori Yeager worked with Lori as well in preparing for the S&P rating call. And that really went very, very smoothly. They had no qualms or concerns about where the city was at. And as you can see, the accolades are pretty much consistent across the board. They talk about your access to the Twin Cities economy, your very strong available fund balance, which is a huge aspect of the credit rating, your strong debt profile, and your adequate management. And really, there's very, very little downside potential for your rating. The only thing that could really bring you down is if you just completely decimated your fund balances, and I'm guessing you're not going to do that anytime soon. So,
Nice job, Lori.
yeah, your team was great to work with across the board.
They're good.
Thank you. So that's all I have for you. Again, I welcome any questions. There is a resolution awarding the bonds as at that reduced amount of the $2,680,000, and basically detailing the conditions of selling those bonds to Northland Securities. And then, Mr. Mayor, after you hopefully approve that, there will be just two forms that Lori's already signed and that you'll sign accepting that bid, and then there'll be other paperwork to follow. But this is all we need for tonight.
Okay.
Thanks.
So one quick question, so just,
Councilmember Alders would like to speak.
so the 2.8 to the 2.6 was because our interest rate was, instead of 1.15, it was 0.87, so we didn't have to, that interest savings was taken off the top to get down to the 2.6, is that right?
Yeah, more or less. So if you averaged the coupons that you're paying,
Yeah.
that would probably be close to, on average, about, the amount of principal goes up, and I'm gonna just ballpark, it'd be around 1.6%, right?
Yep.
Your actual true yield is that 0.87. So in order to get those coupons at that higher level, Northland needed to pay you, actually it was gross about 200 grand extra.
Okay.
And then we used the net amount after their commission to reduce the bond amount by 150. Yep.
Gotcha.
And by the way, I should note, these four players are the ones you want bidding on any city bond issue because they're the most consistent and the most aggressive bidders. So we were happy to see all four of those firms at the table.
Wonderful.
Appreciate that. So as far as the resolution, then, we have, what do we have for resolution? Got the meeting minutes here.
So there's a resolution that came out today. Is this the one that we need to be signing?
Well, eventually, but not tonight. But that is that the one that Kenny Graven finished?
Yep.
Yep, so that just has, it's the same as the draft resolution that they sent you last week, but just with the details filled in as to the reference proposal.
Okay, so the draft is in your booklet. And then the resolution does not need to be signed tonight, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so if they pass it, it's in the book, then we
I'm
need
just
to
looking for this resolution. This resolution's gotta be this one, right?
And so what we'll pass tonight is this draft here.
And this draft is showing the 2.83 million on it?
Here's the one that came out today. so-
Yeah, the new one does have the new bond amount of
Okay.
2.68.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, that's one- Do I have this one or was new one?
It's the.
Yeah, it's
updated
just the
version.
difference,
Okay.
it's the difference in the
Updated.
price.
Okay.
Lori, also, was there another resolution that they had sent you about the assessments themselves? There, I feel like, Julie, I think you're going, it's, go there, you got this covered.
Got those.
Or,
Is that this?
Oh, yeah, in the folder,
Oh, okay.
there were two resolutions that I need to send over tomorrow that didn't have signatures on them.
2.6799.
All right, so these two are signed,
I can send
and
those.
then these will be signed yet tonight.
Do you need the two today?
I just need the bid form. You can send the ones about the assessment proceedings back to Kenny and Graven. Thank you.
Proposal forms?
I'll take the proposal forms. The lawyers are in charge of all the
Is
assessment.
that what you're saying?
proceedings.
Bid
The other
forms?
stuff.
What's that?
Is that bid forms?
Yeah. That's mine. Thank you. So yeah, Mr. Mayor, if, whenever anyone calls for makes a motion, if they would just reference the new bond amount of the 2.68 million as reflected in the new resolution, that would be great.
All right. We'll go through this quick. Pursuant to and due call and notice thereof, a regular meeting of City Council in the city of Nowlan, Minnesota, duly held in the City Hall in said city on Tuesday, September 14th, 2021, commencing at 7 p.m. Following members were present, which we will add everybody in. Nobody was absent, so we will have that in there. Next order of business was consideration of the proposals which have been received for the purchase of the city's general obligation bonds, Series 2021A, to be issued in the original aggregate principal amount of $2,680,000. City Clerk Treasurer present tabulation of the proposals which has been received in the manner specified in the terms of proposal of the bonds. Proposals are attached hereto as Exhibit A. After due consideration of the proposals, one of our members then introduced the following resolution and moved its adoption. Turn to page 2. If somebody wants to enter that motion,
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Rainville.
I would move that we pass resolution, Lori, you'll have to give us the number, awarding the sale of general obligation bonds, Series 2021A, in the original aggregate principal of amount of $2,680,000, fixing their form and specifications, directing their execution and delivery, and providing for their payment.
I'll second it.
All right, so we have a motion from Councilmember Rainville and a second from Councilmember Alders. Obviously, the rest of the body of this would be what we had previously, so other than I'm assuming the amounts have changed on page 4, will be updated, and the interest rates have been updated. So the rest of the text of this should be what you had in your packet, and with only the numbers changing up front. All right, so with that understood, and the bid tabulation attached that we just went through, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any other questions or discussions? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Lori, Bruce?
It's always a pleasure
Yes,
working
thank you.
with you and with Lori, and please contact me anytime if you want to talk about other financing needs or other fiscal topics. So
What are you doing next year?
I might be back here.
Maybe.
So, all right, well, take care. Thank you all very much.
Mr.
Thank
Mayor,
you.
Good
Mr.
night.
Mayor, I do have a question for Mr. Kimmel. No, we've done this process about with our bond, our AA status. If we're not bonding, how often would you do that process to make sure that we're staying current?
S&P will occasionally, Councilmember, S&P will occasionally go ask you to complete what they call a surveillance rating process. But that only happens if it's been more than 3 to 5 years between ratings. And then it's an interesting quirk that credit ratings are actually assigned to the individual bond issues and not to the city per se. So if you read the fine print, they talk about they're signing the AA plus to this 2021A and reaffirming it for all of your other outstanding debt. So if you did issue another series of bonds next year or the year after, we would have a similar conversation.
Right.
And I would say, I know everyone likes the idea of going to AAA, which is the highest, and that's the next notch up from where you're at. But I think, you're very, very solid at AA plus. I don't see any downward pressure, but I think it would be pretty hard to go up to AAA, at least, for the foreseeable future. And you wouldn't want to do the kinds of things like in terms of, tripling your fund balance that it would take to get S&P to consider that. But we'll be, if we talk again next year, we'll be talking with S&P again.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And as you had mentioned before, AA plus for a city our size is extraordinary.
It is extraordinary, and it's about your fiscal management, it's about your strength of your economy and your demographics and your low debt levels. It's all working in your favor.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate your partnership.
Thanks,
Good night.
Bruce.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Greenberg.
I think a lot of our great rating has to do with how you have led the city with a fine-tooth comb, you and Mary, and council passed, making sure that every little detail is known in our budgets and making sure they're all sharp and fine. I just want to commend you on that, because I think you have a big part to do with that.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And we do, Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Blake.
we also need to be grateful for our clerk at the guest. We know she's taking care of the bills on time, doing a good job managing the money in the office, and we couldn't do it without a staff that was willing to do the work to keep it up, so
Yeah.
we have some good things going here.
And I agree, you know, it's critical, you know, over the years we've been a city, or just over 13 years now, it's teamwork that makes that happen, because without
Yeah, gotta work
competent
together.
staff making sure everything's in place on that side, and without, you know, council paying attention to the debt. I mean, I still appreciate we have the second lowest tax rate in all of the county, and yet we have, I don't know anybody else our size that has a AA plus. So it's a good combination. We aren't starving ourselves to death, and yet we're being fiscally prudent in the process. So it's good teamwork, and that's what's required to
Yep,
keep that type of rating. So thank you all around. All right, now we go back to 7A.
Mr. Mayor,
There we go. Planner stop.
we're here tonight to approve a one-lot final plat entitled Soft First Edition as part of this industrial development. As I stated in the memo, they will be coming back very soon with the rest of the preliminary plat and future final plat for the 80 acres. Our office recommends approval. I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have. We've got a development agreement and findings to approve tonight.
So I'm looking at the development agreement,
Okay?
Opt First Edition, and I'm looking on page 2 and 3, construction of infrastructure improvements. And each of those Roman numerals has attached here to exhibits B through L. Did I miss those exhibits somewhere?
No, we didn't attach all the plans. There's dozens and dozens of,
Okay, so it doesn't really mean attached here, but on record.
well, they will be made part of the record when it's recorded, yes.
And all of these 11 items are completed?
Yes, they've completed everything that was asked of them.
Okay. So having been through this, and obviously the developed agreement's the key part of that, we have the engineering review from Hawkinson. So on those, you know, some of those exhibits talked about the turn lanes and some of those things. Are we good with all of the engineering comments as well?
Yes, and the engineering reviews incorporated into the findings. And, the last paragraph of my memo contains a recommended motion, which, includes reference to the developer's agreement, final approval of all plans and specs by the city engineer as outlined in the memo dated August 26th, and approval of the Highway 47 and turn lane plans by MinDOT.
How are they handling the hill to the north?
Well, they'll go out and physically look at it and make a determination.
Will they determine where the road access is 47 because of that? Or?
Yeah, I mean, they have the right to change it. I doubt they will, but, they can look at that. The road moved a tiny bit further south due to the wetland that's, located there, but we haven't heard anything negative about what's proposed.
So if MinDOT said they have to go even further south, does that affect any of these submittals here? Because it looks like it's just basically a wetland along the highway, or detention
Well,
We
basin.
went between the wetlands, we didn't have to encroach on wetlands, is what I understood.
right, we definitely avoided wetlands. Yeah, if MinDOT says it has to go 10 feet further south, then they will have to revise plans.
Okay. All right, so with that, and again, with the packet that being presented to us with all the details, we have a recommendation on page 2 of Planner Stockman's memo, as she just stated. Recommendation, the city council approved the final plat of Cox First Edition contingent upon the applicant's entering into a developer's agreement, final approval of all plans and specifications by the city engineer as outlined in the Hawkinson memo dated August 26, 2021, and approval of the Highway 47 and turn lane plans by MinDOT. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve Taos First Edition final plat with the recommendation by our city planner, outlined by what the mayor just spoke.
Do we have a second?
Mr. Mayor, I'd second.
So we have a motion by Councilmember Greenberg, a second by Councilmember Rainville. Any further questions or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Yep.
Look forward to the progress.
What's that?
We look forward to your progress.
Yeah, it's coming along quick, all the steel comes next week on Wednesday, and they'll be erecting on Wednesday next week, so it's moving, gonna move real quick, so it's going faster than I thought. So good weather's helped out, so thank you very much.
Yes,
Okay, talk to
Thank
soon.
you.
got it. Good for you. Diagram and checklist.
We are on skip C and D.
We're on
item
E.
Memo assessments.
All right, we have a couple of assessments that are being recommended here.
Hawkinson Anderson.
So the Hagerty goes back to June of last year, and the last I saw on his was maybe August 3rd. Has there been just nothing happening on that since last August, 2020?
I looked at it last year, and then we presented him with the, what do you call it, action plan. And then I sent him a letter 2 weeks ago, and I was just out there yesterday to follow up on the remaining items. So he has done everything with the exception of making application for a building permit for a residence. So he has removed the RVs, he's removed the containers. He has only items there that were permitted on this action plan. So he has done a good job with responding. With COVID, again, he told me he's been out of work on and off and just can't afford to build a house right now. But without, the RV there, that was the biggest concern. And we have had no complaints all year from residents, so that is also positive. I did inform him yesterday that there's a potential that he would be on the assessment list. He said that he shouldn't be assessed if he's responded to everything, and that he will show up to contest it. So whether or not that happens, I don't know, but in some cities, they do waive the citation if the items have been addressed. Other cities will keep a portion of the citation to cover staff costs, and some waive it altogether. So it's pretty much your decision how you want to handle that.
Well, I would say based on the previous challenges that we were having there, the fact that these are all done is very positive. I didn't hold high hopes that we would see the list completed
Yes.
at the time. And so, and I understand tough times, But I think the fact that we got cooperation, and yes, there is some city time invested in it, I think that we have cooperation, and I think leniency on the part of the city would probably foster continued cooperation. So I'm willing to forgive or at least greatly reduce, depending what the council would like to do there.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Rainville.
I'm wondering if Ms. Stockman could tell us what has the city expended on this? And I know that the fine is $600, but what have we?
I've got at least, let's see, 4 trips out there, 2 citations, a couple letters, so you're probably looking at, between at least 6 and 8 hours at $60, so you're around $480 maybe, $500.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Rainville.
I would like to see that the city recoups their money that has been expended there. He did not, if memory serves me, he did not respond quickly, and hence the fines. He did eventually take care of it, but had he done it as he was, had he not had what he had there to begin with, it wouldn't have been an issue. Since then, he did not move quickly enough, and hence we have fines. And the city has expended time to go out there, and I would like to see us recoup our money.
Other council members.
I agree with Jeff. I think he's cleaned it up. That was the main goal, right? If we put some staff work into it, I think that's obviously, yep, we got some money into it, but the end result is it's cleaned up and we're gonna have a better relationship going forward. I think if we try to make the guy potentially pay up, that's my opinion. I think I like Jeff's approach.
Councilmember Lake, Greenberg.
I'm mixed because I think you're setting a precedent here. If someone is fined and we decide we're not gonna make them pay the fine, that's saying something pretty loud to the rest of the community that we're not gonna enforce these fines. However, I also see if we can keep a good relationship with someone and they're finally doing what we want, we don't want to destroy that either. Because we finally have him cooperating, and that keeping this fine would probably cause a lot of tension again. And then what? Then we got maybe more trouble and he refuses to do anything in the future that we ask him. So I think it's between a rock and a hard place. I don't think it's an easy decision here. I'd like to say forget it, but then I think, what are we saying to everyone else? When do we decide we waive fees? Do we decide, who do we decide it for? I don't know. I'm confused.
There's been a pattern in the past, but I'll wait until I hear from
Okay.
Councilmember Greenberg.
I like your approach.
The pattern has been in the past that sometimes it's the threat of real money that gets people to action. And we have had instances in the past where people actually come around and we forgive it because they did finally clean it up. I understand Councilmember Rainville's concern that we expended staff time and energy on this, but I also think it goes part of being a collaborative, cooperative relationship with the city. So the city would end up picking up the cost. There is an alternate. Because this is something that could have been assessed last year. We could say, keep on your good behavior and we forgive it next year. Just don't keep adding interest and just keep it on there, I believe.
You can't, the statute of limitations is 3 years back for all unpaid bills.
But so we can either forgive it outright, if that's the council's wishes. We could give it one more year and say it's looking good and forgive it. or we could enforce it.
So, Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Blake?
our bill pays are subjective then?
Pardon?
Our bill pays are subjective.
Our assessments for fines?
Yeah, I mean, you're saying they're,
Yes, it's the council's decision.
okay, so there's no set, so that's the way it is, that there's no set decision here. We decide we can waive some and we'll make others pay.
And generally, we work with staff, and when staff comes in and says we're getting no cooperation, or we got all these promises and nothing's been done, we are clamped down hard on those. And because this will also involve attorney time.
This what?
This will involve our prosecuting attorney time. Because this will have to, if you've taken a look at the chart here, there's a process where this will go through the assessment phase, and we'll sit down actually with the prosecuting attorney. So there'll be additional costs to the city.
Okay.
For this, so. But it's one of those where if people appear to actually be cooperating, we try and cooperate with them. If they say we don't really care what the city says, then we send them to the attorney and say, tell it to the judge.
Mr. Mayor?
Planner Stockman.
Yeah, I would, just for Linda's sake, it is somewhat common to forgive a citation if the property owner has cooperated.
Okay. I was just gonna ask you.
Or you would reduce it to something reasonable like $200. And remember, you always have the threat of any violation from into the future is an immediate citation at this point. It's not back to a letter.
Okay.
So he's got that.
It's not back to square one. It's still, the record is there, but the forgiveness is.
Okay, I didn't know all this, so that's interesting.
All right, so we can take them one at a time, since we've talked about this one. Anybody want to say anything else about it? If not, I'll accept a motion.
I'll make a motion to forgive the $643 for the applicant violation of the code, based on the fact that the property's cleaned up and it currently meets the current ordinances.
Mr. Mayor, if I might just change that to the 600 amount owed at the present time.
Oh, sorry.
The 643
Okay.
would be later if he didn't, if he didn't pay that. That's what the fee added.
Okay, for the $600.
I second it.
We have a motion by Councilmember Alders, a second by Councilmember Blake. Any other discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. All right, we have one other on the list this year, Mr. Jim Hazeman. This is a long, involved process. We have some highlighted items on the report here.
Mr. Mayor?
Planner Stockman.
Yeah, this, I do view the applications and the processing of these special requests a little differently than the code enforcement because, they're notified of this ahead of time, they're signing the application, agreeing to pay, and each resident is initiating their own, request for their private property.
Councilmember Alders, you may not be as familiar with this. It touched you as you came in, I don't know.
Yeah.
The rest of us have had significant attention to this over the past year. The question there again is, You know, his comment was, understanding he's obviously signed an application fee and expense statement. His question was how things were explained to him and the additional costs that were incurred. And so he has paid up until this time, how much? 684? How much has he paid total? He had a credit of 980.
Looks like he's paid $1,480, so he's went through his credit and he's went through his escrow amount.
Yeah.
He paid $980, not $1,480, so he's out $980 total, right now. So, I reduced that escrow to 500 to accommodate, and came back to bite us, which is why we should probably always just get 1,000, even if it's just something simple.
So the escrow, so the base fee was 200, public hearing fee 250, escrow was 500.
Right.
It normally would be 1,000.
Right. With the authority to change it, minimize it or reduce it for easier cases like an administrative lot split or something simple. But it seems like every time I do, it comes back to bite us, so. You know, there were tons of questions. I don't necessarily believe he even still understands what happened here and why he had to do this. And explained it to him up front. He used his septic system where he wanted it, was over the lot line. If he moved his septic system over slightly, it'll leave everything status quo. But he felt strongly about putting the septic system there, and so I said, well, maybe the best thing to do is combine your lots and to vacate this easement, and he said, yeah, I like that idea, so we proceeded, but it was, I don't know, it was just difficult for him along the whole way, and I really don't know how else I could have explained it, so I felt.
I think that again, people that haven't done this before, one of the challenges is, you know that even vacating an easement like this, where he's looking at something that's totally within his property lines, not understanding the surveyor, you know, Mr. Wagner getting involved, not understanding the need for a public hearing. I don't know if that was explained to him up
Yes.
front.
Yeah, I had dozens and dozens of calls from him, and I was very accommodating in explaining everything, that it was state law under state statute, that we have to follow these process. I can't waive anything regarding the public hearing or the state statute, the notice or anything, so at any rate, it was a struggle, and
So, Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Alders.
so this is where I think, we talked about this earlier this year, because I got involved in the tail end of this, talking to Jim on this. So this is exactly why we asked Liz to put together what the process diagram is and what the checklists are, so that we avoid this in the future, because Liz tries to help everybody through this process because they don't understand it. And as people keep asking questions, Liz answers those questions, and then she also, per the role, charges for those questions, because that's a contractor, what they do, right? So you get into this, hey, I thought you were just helping me, which she is, but at the same time, she's got to log her time somewhere, right? So as we move forward with this process diagram and checklist on, hey, if you do this, you're gonna go from it's super simple to now you're going down this path and it's not simple and it's gonna cost you more because you gotta check all these boxes now versus this box. And I'm not saying that didn't happen, but then as soon as you don't have this process map and this checklist, you get into this, yeah, I told him, and he's gonna say, well, I thought she was just helping, and she definitely is helping, but at the end of the day, we have to count for Liz's time, right?
Yeah, I think the other part of that is, as you say, I think the value of the checklist and the process map gets it out of Liz's head, because again, she knows it inside and out.
Yeah,
She's got
absolutely.
it. And somebody who's going through it for the first time doesn't
Yeah.
understand. And it's a lot easier to just say, here's where we are in the chart, and here's the cost as we go forward.
So,
And I think that certainly is advantageous going forward.
so I mean, I feel like we're trying to improve the process, and this is some of the learning curves and some of the pain points we've had as we've got into this process with some residents not exactly knowing what it is, and believe Liz is the guide to guide them through the whole process, which she can, but it gets into the county, it gets into the watershed, it gets into wetland delineation, which is not even in her area, so then she's lining up people to do that, and then we get into this downward spiral of he said, she said, which we gotta get out of going forward. It's not fun for us, it certainly isn't fun for Liz, and it's not fun for the residents.
Well, I really do think that's where the checklist, because you can all be on the same square. You go down there, it's not, and some of the confusion we've had is because, again, you've got the checklist, you've had it up here all along. And as we said before, some of that is the recollection of, oh, there's also this, or I did tell you this before, but now this is where that comes in, and that's where I think that the confusion has been for some of the residents, so. That being said, we have a better process going forward.
I feel like.
We shouldn't be encountering this again, so.
I think so, and I mean, we want Liz to feel successful and like she's doing a good job, and I think that's gonna help us versus, some of the uncomfortable discussions we've had to have earlier this year.
Thank
All
you
right.
for that, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, that was a very good description of what I deal with and how hard I try
Yeah, right.
to make everybody happy.
Right.
And sometimes, yeah, no matter how you explain it, they just don't understand because it's not part of their daily life.
Yeah,
And, yeah, the visuals, I think, are the key. And just to say, oh my gosh, there's 30 steps, are you kidding me? You know, I mean,
Versus-
that will help, just,
Yeah.
yeah.
you were on a 5-step path, now you're on a 30-step path, and
Right.
this one's got a lot more zigs and zags, and so.
Yeah.
That
Appreciate
being said, so now we have a legacy issue here with Mr. Hazeman. What do we want to do? It's $318.
My opinion is this is not gonna affect our AA+ rating, and I think this has been a lot of hard feelings for a lot of different team members, and I believe if we took him through the process diagram and checklist and we still had this, I would have a different opinion, but in light of that, I would say, let's chalk this up to the learning curve and forgive this $300 and move on.
Yeah.
So that's a motion?
I motion that we, I don't know exactly how to say it, that we forgive Jamie Hazeman's debt to the city of $310.
18.
Where'd you get?
310.
I got 310 here. I'm correct, I'm sorry about the corrections you're making here. Do I hear a second?
So we have a motion from Councilmember Blake. Do we have a second? I will second. Keep things moving here. A motion. Councilmember Blake, second by the mayor. Discussion.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Greenberg.
is everything done as far as the
easement and everything in this document, is it all complete?
Yes, his project is complete, yes.
Okay.
The house is built and the septic system's being used.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Rainville.
I have a question as to Ms. Stockman. So there were other people that came to us and said that they felt that some of the fees that they paid were unrealistic. They didn't have a checklist. Are we now setting ourselves up for those residents to come back in now and say, I want to have a refund on my money? We have, I think, 3 other residents here at one of the meetings that expressed concern.
Well, they've all paid, not all of them have received the final bill, not all of them have, built their home yet and all of that, but, it's completely your call. I mean, you do have a point, but, you do have the ability to, those other people are, to our knowledge, either paid in full or at least current, where I guess he wasn't, so that's why he showed up here as a sole person at this point, but part of this whole process here, I just wanted you to see this chart and how we take that November 15th deadline for assessments and we work our way back to these meetings in September and October, and that needs to be more of an annual thing so we can recoup some of our, especially citations and code enforcement money.
And that has been in the past. We haven't seen this chart per se, but that we always hit our assessments by the deadline so we could get them. We knew if we missed that deadline, we're going out another year.
Well, when you're doing the road stuff, it's hard to forget, right? But yeah.
No, I'm talking about the citations.
Like, I don't think we did any the last couple of years.
No.
Yeah.
No, but prior to that, we always knew there was a deadline to get it to the
right.
county.
Right, okay.
But again, it's good to have that in part of our documentation. This chart needs to be there saying,
Right.
that's how it goes. If you don't pay, here's the path, and here's what you'll be getting from us. And that's why I say that if you look at that, then we start involving the attorney and other people, and that starts adding up, so.
Okay.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. All right. I will say the next item, I'm confused. Because I had an RCA to replace that map and a similar one like it in the fire hall, and then make sure we have current maps in the city office. And I'm not quite sure what we received here. It's signs. So I need some explanation because these are numbers are pretty big. The maps are smaller than I thought. But the numbers are way beyond, so. I see this is from Planner Stockman, so what do we have here?
So, Mr. Mayor, in order, the largest that Hawkinson can print the colored map is 36 by 42, okay? So if we're going bigger, and we want to make this look like a nice, high quality, vivid color, current map, you've gotta go to a sign company and use a different product than just paper with warped plexiglass over it, So, there are several different products, and DeMar's sign is, got a couple different options, but you know how they wrap cars in that vinyl?
Yes.
Well, they can actually do a map like that too, and they claim that they can just mount it right on this wall, and I said, even if it's a little textured like that, and he said, yeah, it'll work out great. That's one option. The other option, I brought a sample.
So that's two 4x6 aluminum panels to create a 6-wide 8-high map, and then they put the vinyl on top of that?
Well, that was a different process, but then the one that's stuck on the wall. But, yeah, I didn't like the fact that DeMars was using 2 pieces instead of, he was trying to maximize the space between that light, or outlet up there and the window. And I said, we don't necessarily have to have every inch covered, you know, but, and it's like 9 feet high, but it's gonna be the orientation of our 8.5 by 11 map that's just basically made larger, so that it'll be some sort of, you know, common sense dimension. The first one, I actually like the best. Here's the sample. It's they call it a polymetal. There's a thin poly inside and there's a thin metal piece on the outside. It's very rigid and they print right on this white coating, and it's very high colored and will be detailed, and it can be mounted just like that to the wall. It doesn't need a frame or anything, or or a cover over it, a clear cover over it. So I just thought maybe a clean look without seeing any of that corkboard, any of the corkboard behind it would be nice. Yeah, King Signs was the highest, and I think those are the ones featured in the pictures. They call that acrylic. I believe it's similar to this, but so I guess the question is, do you want to spend that kind of money here? The only other option is to print the map in 4 pieces again.
Is that what that is?
Yes, and try to.
And why are we, if we're 6x6, why is that laid out not square? City's 6x6.
Yeah, that one is really off somehow because we are pretty much square. And when we add our key and our title and everything, we get our 8.5 by 11 vertical format. So
Put it over there.
Yeah, I'm not sure how come that one's not square, but
Well, at this point, we have some numbers to contemplate. We don't know exactly what we're doing with this room yet, so investing $800 to $1,500. It would be nice to have something that's more current than a township map.
well, something like this though, see, printed on something rigid is completely movable or repositionable,
That's
right?
true.
With just some screws in the wall. And you can, you'd be able to touch this and not worry about other groups being in here and, ruining it. And you don't have the glare of that acrylic or glass over it.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Greenberg.
it'd be cool if it was
Go.
it'd be cool if it were a satellite image with the boundaries of properties and commercial districts superimposed, so you can see both at the same time.
And if we could have the lights on the property light up.
Oh, I just love that. There's our graphic man's talking.
Secondly,
I love it.
Secondly, if we did print directly on that aluminum, which would be great, I would suggest a clear protective vinyl right over the top of that. Because over time, if people are bumping it or scraping it, a chair goes across it, it'll start to scratch off the image. So if we put a clear plastic protective, right now that vinyl protects that clear protects the map. But if that map were just left, tables, chairs, kids, whatever, some kid will come up there with a nickel and go like this and go, I can scrape a hole right in this drawing. Anyway,
Seniors.
that's my feedback.
Okay.
Anyway, that was a local guy, he seemed very knowledgeable, the 810.
Bob's Sign Company?
Bob Sign, he's right down in Anoka. Works out of his garage.
Nice.
Great.
Bob.
So, I guess I would really like to see something updated too, because we do refer, it would be nice to have people refer to it. We could do for sure an aerial photo with property lines. It kind of depends. I mean, you could also do 4 separate maps, like a wetland map, a zoning map. It's not as big, but you could have 4 separate things. But then if you print them, then what are we gonna do about protecting them? We could just laminate.
Yeah, if you remember, we used to have all the parks ones over on this board, and that was the problem.
What was the
They got
problem?
ruined.
Yeah,
Somebody bumps up against it, rotates their chairs,
I ripped them
and
up.
we kept trying to move them out, because kids would come and poke holes in the bottom, and the seniors would have the big black chairs that run them right off the wall, so.
Yeah.
Because this is a common room, you have to be protected, because you don't know who's using the room.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Rainville.
to Councilmember Greenberg, given your expertise, what do you feel on this? And do you have any other suggestions or companies that we could look at?
I mean, what I'm looking at here is the various ways going from expensive to cheap. And it really is, if we're budget minded, just duplicating what we have there is the cheapest way to go. Printing directly on that aluminum, which Liz showed us, that'll make a nice premium product. But even with the vinyl overlay, that can still be scratched if someone is really, like a child really wants to investigate it.
Intentional?
So I don't know if we need the actual plastic over the top to protect it just in case, because this is such a heavily used room for all sorts of venues. If it were a premium office space where it's only adults and it's just a, what they call it, the boardroom, then we would go Liz's route and we'd put that up there and no one would ever mess with it. No one would even touch it except for the cleaning lady to dust it. But that's not the case of this room. So I'm almost thinking right now that we just go back to that. At least some sort of a protective cover like that, whatever we're investing in. I guess I'm kind of interested in the, if we had dual, one with the satellite, so we could look at the features of the map. If there were, hey, you can see there's a wetland right here, I can see the water, all that good stuff. And right next to it, all the highlighted areas, the commercial areas and all that as a separate entity.
Because we have addresses, property lines, zoning is important, land use is important.
School district lines,
We could,
postal.
So I would be inclined, I personally like the one size fits all, everyth's in there. And maybe cheaper because things are constantly changing. In 5 years, there's gonna be a bunch of new stuff on there, so if it were relatively cheap, but the graphics can be done cool and be put on any substrate. So the same cool graphics can be put on paper, what I'm looking at right there for cheap, or the graphics can be put on that sheet of metal for expensive, but the graphics are still the same. The printer will spit it out on whatever substrate you want, either the cheap paper or the expensive metal.
The question is, do you want that size? Are we paying 4 times the $71?
well, but you'd have to laminate, so, 71 is about the cheapest, laminated, yeah.
Mr.
But you'd have
Mayor,
to do that 4
4
times to
times.
get something that size.
Right, 4 separate maps or.
It's still gonna be $300. So. Councilmember Blake.
Mr. Mayor, because of the size that you're dealing with there, you're gonna incur, considerable cost because of the size.
Yeah, the question is, for $500 more, do you go with the metal substrate?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Greenberg.
I would say if you have a really nice polished metal frame and glass overlay, like a display case type of a thing, and then you just put your substrate in there, and let's say in 5 years you wanted to update it, you could just reprint it out, and most of your expense go into the frame and the glass to make that look beautiful. Like I said, because the substrate itself can be as cheap as paper, as expensive as the metal, you could put all your expense into the frame and make that look pretty, and just change out what's inside every 5 years.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Alders.
can't we just put it on a vinyl, like all of our election signs are on vinyl? You can get the same density on that vinyl, and then you can just get the vinyl that same size, stick it up there and put the plastic back up.
Yeah,
And then it's not 4 things pieced together, and that vinyl was,
yeah, so the vinyl, the plastic foam core with the little holes in it.
no, just a vinyl like a,
Like an outdoor sign?
Like a,
yeah,
Yeah.
like an outdoor
Well,
sign.
there's banner material, and they can print
Banner
directly
material.
onto banner material, which is like a canvas almost.
Yeah.
Which has body to it, then you can use as is.
I
If
would-
you print directly on vinyl, that's a sticker, then you peel that off and put it on something.
It's like a election sign, or what you tie up at a rodeo grounds, it says welcome rodeo fans.
Right, so there's 2 ways of doing that. Some people directly print right onto that plastic foam core.
I know those.
They'll direct print it. Others will print the vinyl, then stick it to that foam core.
Yeah, this is
All
just
right,
like.
so here's my suggestion. It's 9 o'clock and we still have 10 items to go through. So let's table this to a work session. We can gather some more options now that we've got Mr. Greenberg's mind churning. I'm sure we'll have some good input. So, but I'm going to recommend we table this for now because it's, we have something to work with here that Ms. Stockman has given us. And we have some ideas, and then we bring it up at a work session where we can
Mr. Mayor,
not delay the other items. Leonard Stockman.
can I encourage you to just at least print like 5 laminated, up-to-date maps that the city hall can use, and the fire station is important, and then we can just tape one here temporarily or something.
So I guess, I thought we did that on a regular basis, because we've sold maps before. We always had an updated one in the city office. We haven't updated one in the fire station forever, because that's huge. That's this size. But I thought we did this on a semi-regular basis, so I
Okay,
don't-
so you're okay with the smaller cost like that?
Yeah.
We have to laminate 1 or 2 where the residents are always touching,
yeah,
and then the fire station would be good. So, I mean, that's kind of safety and necessary, but,
because we used
okay.
to sell them to residents. I mean, we do have,
Right.
part of our fee schedule is selling maps to residents too, so.
okay. So if we're around the $300 for whatever, 4 maps, because not all of them need to be laminated, maybe just 2 of them laminated and then, but, okay, we'll do that.
So the council, so let's motion that then. The council will make a motion to,
What website is that? Just the print, yeah.
I make a motion that we table these map ideas until a later date where we can discuss them in some sort of a
Final
planning
banner.
session.
I'd second that.
all right? Any other discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. How about the office going ahead with 4 of the 36 by 42s? So which one are we talking about here? Hawkinson or Vistaprint?
They're about the same. I think Vistaprint's gonna be the easiest to just get them mailed to us, because otherwise somebody's gotta make a trip down to Minneapolis to get them laminated.
All right, 4 maps not to exceed $300?
4 separate maps, not to exceed $300?
Yeah, for the same map, not sectioning.
Okay.
So that the city has a current map that they can show residents things on.
Perfect.
We'll have some backup, and if we want to put one in here temporarily, we can do that, so. So that would be color prints on paper and laminated each, so not to exceed 300, I'll make that motion.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion? All right, seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Say aye. Aye, opposed? Motion carries. All right, we're down to section 8. We got everything in 7, Toft? Kuntz? Workshop, memo, and mole maps. Okay. We're half an hour ahead of schedule. Good job. Let's get through these and we'll beat 10 o'clock. Set a date for communications meeting that we tabled previously. Meetings are getting kind of hard to come by. Meeting dates when we can all get together.
Mr. Mayor, can we set a date in October for that?
I'm checking, let's see. My calendar up.
Mr. Mayor, how about that week of the 17th through the 23rd? Want a date there, because we got something
My
the
best, I
first and second week.
got something Thursday, but everything else is open for me.
We have something Thursday on the
I do.
20th? Oh, you do, oh.
That week is open for me.
What are we talking, which week?
17th through the 23rd?
So Monday the 18th through Friday the 22nd.
Except for
I
Wednesday.
could potentially get here for an evening meeting. I'll be over in St. Paul. Depends on traffic.
What day are you talking about?
21st.
Oh,
Otherwise,
well,
that-
how about the 19th, if you're not gone then?
Tuesday at 7? 19th at 7?
I
Santa.
had to choose, I guess. I realize 19th I'm busy, so I can make the 21st work, Thursday 21st.
Yeah. You good with Thursday, Jason?
Can we do 6 o'clock?
Okay, I thought you said you might not be back in time.
I'll make it work.
Even at 6?
Yeah.
Okay. This is, communication meeting.
Can we combine that with anything else we need to get done or not?
Probably not, because we've struggled to get through the communication one. Every time we've done it, we've combined it with something else and it gets pushed to the back. That would be my opinion. We haven't been successful at that so far.
I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
6 to 8?
All right, we got it right now, 6 to 8.
Okay.
So to Ms. Strike, if office staff can let the Lions know, because that would be a night that they would have a meeting here, that they'll have to move elsewhere.
So, Mr. Mayor,
Leonard Stockman.
so part of my concern with tabling the accessory building discussion is we have a property owner that's, well, he's in violation right now, which, I mean, is his own fault, but we also have some questions have come up about like bus stops and, you know, little shelters down by the road. We have a provision in the ordinance that allows an extra 120 square feet in addition to, you know, like if you're allowed 2 buildings per 5 acres or whatever.
You say the 120, is that, so right now I think that the maximum is 200?
Well, without a building permit, correct. Right, so we put in the 120 to allow, yeah, somebody to put up a little garden shed or a bus stop, but our ordinance doesn't allow that to be closer to the road, so they're really all illegal. And we had a resident that had 3 people try to break into his home. He has a very long driveway, and he's exceedingly worried about the kids, and he literally wants to put a little bus stop with a lockable door. But, 4 by 5, 20 square feet or something. But he wants to pour a foundation and make it real fancy, and I said, as of now, you can't do that.
Is that, I didn't see that in the,
No, I did not include that, not knowing if you even want to allow any buildings forward of the house. My interpretation of the existing ordinance is that there was some obvious intentions of allowing 1 building forward of the house in cases where houses don't meet the required setback. But it was so confusing and indecipherable that that's the reason I tried to tackle it. But yeah, it's probably gonna take some time. I mean, I think Mary's right, it's not something quick. But I don't know, I don't wanna push it off 2 months either, I guess.
Isn't it on the October 7th?
Yeah.
Isn't the 10/7 workshop?
10/7 was the date that.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know that.
I was gonna say, we moved both of those out to 10/7.
Oh, I didn't know we had a meeting on 10/7.
Yeah, we were demanding.
10/7 work, for a workshop, I'll be out of town.
So do we have anybody that can take minutes? Because it's typically our work session day, so.
That's fine.
All right, so you won't be here, but somebody will.
Yep.
Okay,
Okay, so we'll talk about
so
that.
right now we've got that,
10/7.
so we have work session scheduled 6 to 9 p.m. for that day.
For which day?
October 7th, Thursday.
6 to 9, okay.
6 to 8.
Oh, 6 to 8.
6 to 8
October
would be
7th.
nice, but right now it was penciled in at 6 to 9.
So
6
that
to 8
would-
would be better, but
I've got 6.
we start at 6, that's the key thing. Quicker we can get done, the better.
Be brief, Liz, be brief.
Okay.
All right. Item B, RCA policy procedures notification land use applications.
Mr.
Councilmember
Mayor,
Rainville.
I submitted this so that we'd have clarification as to how we are notifying residents and the council when there are land use applications. There was some previous direction, not all of it, I believe was being followed, so just trying to clean it up. Liz did, at the last meeting, said she wasn't able to find the information, and I did forward all of those pages on. So what I would ask is that the council provide staff direction to ensure the blue land use signs are placed upon the receipt of a land use application, including concept plans, and removed upon council's approval or denial of the application or applicant's withdrawal of their application. That number 2 is we revise the tracking document and provide a copy to the council. And 3rd is that assures that the council direction is followed.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Blake?
we weren't doing this? Is my question?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Rainville?
There have been times where for whatever reasons, the blue land use signs were not going out. Council did not receive the list of the addresses that were required by one of the previous staff council directions, that we weren't getting that information. And the public hearing checklist that was previously designed doesn't have the requirement of sending that information to council. So I think that's why sometimes we weren't getting it, because it's not on the checklist. So I'm just trying to clean it up so that there's a good set of guidelines as to how both the council and the residents are informed as to land use application.
So Councilman Rainville, you want to, I'm sorry, Mayor, can I ask?
So, Lisa?
Thank you. So Mayor, you're asking to get the addresses as well that are mailed the public hearing on?
Yes, that was directed back in July of 20. It was directed that council be included in the letter that goes out to residents and list of residents' names and addresses, so that we know who has been provided the
July 20 of this year?
2020.
2020.
July of 2020.
Oh, okay. So, Mayor, can I ask a question to Councilor Marino?
Yes.
I noticed one time that the land use signs weren't out. Do you have examples of other times that these weren't followed? Because I believe this has been followed.
I can go back, I don't have that information, but there were numerous times that I emailed asking about it.
That the land use signs weren't up yet?
Correct.
You did send, that's when I did know that happened. Just this most recent one, but other than that, I don't have any
Yeah, I'll go back
knowledge.
through my emails, but I wouldn't have, and even if it's just been the one, we need to make sure that the residents are made aware of it, people that drive by it, that information is out there.
I just want to make sure that
Okay.
this RCA isn't, it is stating one or more times this has not been followed. So I want to make sure that staff knows what those times are, because we're only aware of one time that the signs didn't get put out.
So if there's some communication that says it's more than that, Councilman Rainville, get that to the office and then you'll have that. If it's not, correct your statement, please, and staff will know that.
So, Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Alders.
so are we actually changing anything on the process here, or do we just, or is the request to, we have a one-time gap in the process, fine, we'll chalk it up to training and we'll follow the process, or is there a request to do something different?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Rainville.
The one piece that's different is stating that the blue land use signs go out, number one, under the requested application. We've always verbally said that. It's, in my opinion, not always occurred. And so I just want to document it, that that's part of when staff receives a land use application, that land use sign goes out to the location. So the surrounding residents and anybody driving by sees that land use sign.
But isn't that on the checklist?
It's on
Oh, it is, but it wasn't happening. I will go
So
back
it didn't
and get,
happen- It didn't happen one time, and that was right when we had an accident at Public Works, and we're trying to get everybody doing what they're supposed to be doing, so
Gotcha.
we missed it.
Mr. Mayor,
Planner Stockman.
my recollection is that the blue land use signs were not supposed to go out until the hearing notice came out, or the letters were sent out, because it would create unnecessary calls to the city hall. And I still have an issue with, certain concept plans being a part of this because they're,
Nothing submitted.
yeah, the concept plans are intended for staff to evaluate and change or, and kind of refine what's happening. And in some cases, it can be sort of an unnecessary alarming situation if we get a really poor concept plan. But-
And again, this is, as I look at the checklist here, this isn't addressing concept plans. That was a unique situation on a problematic property we've had in the past, or concerns we had with that property in the past. That concept plan was different because we were looking at significant changes, not only that would affect the entire city as far as comp plan and ordinances. So I would say that was our flyer, but I don't see anything here that says this goes out with concept plans. This is when the public notices go out, and there's not public notices going out for concept plans.
So,
No, she included concept plans.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
So,
I missed
Mr. Mayor, I'd be willing to take, part of this is a discussion on it, so I would be willing to remove the including concept plans. I do want something that, though, as we have with the lineal footage, that we notify residents, that the city clerk has discretion. If we think it's something that's gonna be big, that we increase the distance of notification, or based on lot sizes, that, because our lot sizes are big, sometimes you don't have many people that are notified, but many people can be affected by it. So that there's some discretion there.
All right, so we're cleaning up what we're doing. If there's actually more than one, Councilmember Rainville will provide that information. If there's not, he'll provide an apology.
Yep.
We'll eliminate concept plans from the requested council action. Otherwise, it looks like it goes out with public hearing notice no later than when those are mailed out to property owners and posted in the paper.
So what is different? I feel like this is totally redundant.
Councilmember Rainville.
What is different is that it is clarifying what was requested back in July and September that wasn't occurring, and the addition then, the placement and removal of the blue land use signs.
So Lori, do we not have clarity, or do we have a checklist to cover this stuff today?
Yes, they have been followed. We missed it once though.
Okay.
From what I'm understanding, so, and I'm not asking for an apology, I'm just asking, when did we miss it before? Because I don't know that. I only know of one instance that we missed putting a blue sign out.
I think the question is the blue sign, and whether there's more or not, we'll find out. What we haven't been getting is when the public notices go out, the council hasn't been getting the who they're going to in the address list. We've missed that a number of times recently.
But if it's in Mr. Mayor, if it's within the guidelines of what you said, and I'm using Anoka's
Search tool.
search tool, and I'm putting in the guidelines that have been set, and I've noticed, okay, this is only covering this square miles of area, I will expand the search because then more residents will be notified. So I still have to mail that out and put all that on there, and I'm going to the effort, and then so I have a list of addresses, I let you know that I sent it. I don't understand the necessity of giving the information of what addresses it was sent to necessarily.
Yep, and that's fine, but that's what the council had decided previously a year ago, and the council decided it is pertinent to them to know who's getting these, because we get the calls. The land use signs we say on the signs call the city office, but some people call us as well.
Okay.
And so when we come to a public meeting, it's nice to know who's been notified. When people get up, they're outside the area, but they got the rumor mill. So the council has decided that's what we want to do, and
Okay.
what Councilmember Rainville's asking is that we just abide by that. So I don't think we need to make more out of it than it is, make it any worse than it is. We have a checklist, and there are items that are to be done when the land use signs go out and when the information is sent to the council members. And so with that, as this has been cleaned up, is this clear enough, just as a reminder that council did decide this a year ago September and a year ago July, and we'll just keep doing what we've been doing properly.
So is the,
Councilmember Alders.
so we need to add,
Yes.
send addresses
Yes.
on the list? Gotcha.
All right, anything else on that one?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Greenberg.
I would just say to Lori and Lisa, just do the best job you can, like you have been doing. I'm not trying to publicly scold you. I'm gonna vote on this just to say, just do the best you can to make sure that these points are followed. But as far as the possible animosity in it, I'm not a part of that.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Rainville.
and I am not trying to publicly shame anyone. Council had provided direction, and I had instances where it wasn't being followed. So I just tried to clean it up so that land use signs go out, land use signs come back in. We get the notification as to what we had previously requested and approved, that we get that notification. So I sent emails. I don't have any other avenue of addressing it, so that's why I did this. So.
Mr. Mayor,
Blatterstock.
just one final comment. Not every land use application is required to have a 1,320 lineal foot notice. In other words, like a variance only requires 500 feet. So we're gonna follow state statute. If it's a sensitive situation, we can always ask about, or go further, but typically the CUPs and the plats, which are the most sensitive probably to adjacent residents, are the 1,320.
So what's on a variance, 500?
500.
Does that even get, how many neighbors does that reach out here?
Immediate neighbors, depends, yeah. I mean, it's just a building setback or something, it's
Yep.
typically not that's why we don't have use variances and allow change land uses.
All right, do we need to take any other action on that? Point of clarification, I don't think we need it. Next item, now then Memorial Park improvements.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Rainville.
Thanks, Dean.
I presented a request for council action to make some improvements, or to contract out some improvements for our pavilion at the Northern Memorial Park, which is right over here. My RCA spells out that we would be replacing the existing wood shutter concession door with a roll-down aluminum shutter door. We would be replacing the wood countertop with the stainless steel counter. The interior of the building would receive installation, sheetrocking, taping, and painting of the south interior wall, which is now just open studs. We would paint the interior block walls, which are now just the gray block. We'd install a ceiling trimmer on the top of the room to enclose it. Right now it's open, and so rodents can get in from the other side of the building into that area. So trying to close that up. And then painting of the exterior north wood wall. So when you're in the pavilion, you're under the roof and you're sitting at the picnic tables, you look at the pavilion and it's that brown wood, and it would refresh that to look nicer. Attached is a application from North Country Construction and Remodeling. After I received this, we realized there were two things missing from this. So the North Country Construction and Remodeling bid is $4,150. And the dock and door bid for the aluminum shutter, their bid was $51.53, but they cautioned me with the price of metal going up that to build some leeway in there, and so we added 10%. So if, and he's not saying there will be an increase, but just to be sure. So the bid from Dock and Door Tech would be $5,668.15. I would be asking for an amount not to exceed $11,000, which incorporates both of these numbers. And that the work be done, and that the city clerk should request staff to dispose of the whiteboard currently hanging on the wall of the pavilion. There's an old whiteboard, and it's scratched up, it's dirty words on it, and it should just come out. It's never, in all of the years that I've been inside that building, it's never been used, so it can just go into the garbage. And then just to assign a staff to work with the contractors to ensure the work is started as soon as possible after October 1, 2021, and that it's completed in a professional manner, and updates are provided to the council as to the progress of the project. Anybody has any questions?
So, we have we'll make that into a motion then,
Yes.
Mary?
Yes, my motion would be what is listed under requested for council action.
Not to exceed $11,000.
Yes.
All right, do we have a second?
I second it.
Motion by Councilmember Rainville, second by Councilmember Blake. To proceed as requested on the RCA. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. I'm sorry. Questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Alders.
how often is this thing used?
It is not used all that often, but with the improvements, and we bought the new refrigerator, and we bought the tables, this is something staff can then offer to our residents to use. It will be a nice, clean building. It'll be a building that'll be easily accessible for people to use it. Right now, the concessions doors pop out and you hook them down, but there are 2x4s holding them in place, and it takes two burly men to get those 2x4s out, and you usually need a hammer to do it. So by replacing this with the shutter door, people will be able to use that. We will have to look at our schedule fee in January and determine if we want to increase the cost of the pavilion if they are going to use that part of the facility. But it allows people to have a sink with water, a refrigerator, and tables, and a clean facility.
Is that roll-up, is that similar to the Twin Lakes Park?
Yes. Yep.
Is that building heated?
It is not.
But it's a summer thing.
It's a summer, yeah,
Yeah, we shut down the water in that come October.
October 1.
Other questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Greenberg.
Mary, I think your proposal is good, and I think it is a much-needed improvement. We used that room during Corner Ball for Hot Dog Day, and yeah, trying to figure out the locking mechanism of that door felt like we were back in the Middle Ages and we were trying to stop a ramming apparatus going through the door. So I think this is great with all the upgrades you've made to that room, which was kind of dank and stinky and musty, and good for you for pointing out the elements that haven't moved and are archaic and need to be removed.
All right, any other comments?
So, Mr. Mayor, I guess I just
Councilmember
add
Alders.
last night we debated for 3 hours over $44,000, and tonight we're spending $11,000 on something that's seldomly used.
So, Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Rainville.
to Councilmember Alders, it is seldomly used, and Joel just gives an example of why, because it's not a facility that people want to use. This will allow residents to be able to use it, to have a nice, clean facility, and be proud of that we as a council can be proud of our parks, and that it's an amenity.
I understand that, and I'm not, I think 11,000 is fine. I'm just saying that we debated 3 hours last night on $44,000, and we're spending 11,000 tonight.
And Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Rainville.
And that was part of our discussion. This is part of what was our discussion last night. And depending on, it'll come out of this year's budget, and it won't be in the capital budget for next year.
But it's also the park.
That's the park improvement funds.
Yes.
There are many things that we need to update, and
I totally understand, and I know that you're passionate about this, and I know you put the RCA forward, and I think it's a good proposal. I just want to caution the team on, because we're passionate about this is fine, and we get into something else on, well, why are we spending an extra $1,000 for election judges 2 years from now? It seems like, let's level the playing field when we have that discussion too.
Okay? So, any other questions, comments? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. An RCA that I put in previously, we requested potholes. So in the Rogers Lake area, for whatever reason, when the engineer decided we should hold off on Waco Drive, Waco, Ventry, and 182nd as part of the project, and tie that in with Ramsey's update of their roads. I'm not sure when Ramsey's gonna update their roads, but ours, the 4 roads down there we decided not to do, were pretty rough shape. So I previously requested staff to go out and patch potholes in there that were rattling cars apart. And they immediately did and went out and did a good job at it. Shane has taken over the Rogers Lake for a while somebody was gone. And he commented on the patches, and he said that the patches that the city did were good, but there's 2 sections that they're just not gonna be able to patch. It's down to gravel. And he recommended that we look at having a professional come in and take out the broken up bituminous and patch it like we've done some other streets. And I agreed with him when he showed it to me. He approached North Valley, and they came up with a proposal on the back end. So I am recommending that for the people that are going into our brand new roads in the Rogers Lake area, that we smooth that out for them to go along with the patched potholes we did, to take those 2 sections of road that are deteriorated and have them replaced with new blacktop. So I'm requesting authorization to have North Valley Paving repair the 2 sections of road that the engineer has pointed out and worked with them on to a dollar amount of $12,105.43. So I would move that.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Rainville.
I would second that, but for question.
All right, so we have a motion by the mayor, second by Councilmember Rainville. Questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Rainville?
Do we have that in our current road fund?
Yes. We just got half of our state monies to be used, it can be used this year. Councilmember Blake?
Why isn't this coming through Shane?
Well, Shane's the one that presented it to me.
And asked you to do this?
He said this, he recommends this being done, so I said I would take it to the council. Shane doesn't typically bring things. to the
Yeah,
council.
I always thought this thing, every time we've done this before, it's always come through Shane. Okay.
Any other comments?
Is,
Councilmember Alders?
are we asking Shane or Lori's team to do an assessment? I mean, it seems odd that you're driving around asking for Joe to patch holes and then sending Shane out there to look at the patch job. So
I
what's,
wasn't sending Shane out to the patch job. I have been keeping tabs on Rogers Lake. I've also been getting calls, as other council members have, people wondering why we didn't do Waco Drive, Ventry, and 182nd. And in my conversations, when I've been down driving the roads, I did ask Shane, why didn't we do this? I mean, he made that recommendation to us as a council when we did this project. I just couldn't remember why it made sense at that time, because if you look at those roads, it would have made sense to go up to our border. His logic was, our roads are different sizes than, different widths than Ramsey's, and he wanted it to tailor in together. They put bituminous curbing in, we don't, they have wider roads, and so he thought it would transition better. We as a council didn't think about it at the time. The residents now see the roads getting fixed, they're saying, why did you stop there? And it does seem a little weird to have 2 blocks not get done. But that being said, it'll be a while before Ramsey does something. We have asked Shane to keep in touch with Ramsey as a council to say, when do you plan on doing this? We don't have any, it's not in their current plans. And so it made sense to me to move this forward. As the project's being finished, we could get something done yet this fall to tie it together. People are quite free. You know, the residents down there would love to see staff and council paying attention to what's going on.
I agree, Mr. Mayor, but this is why we pay Shane. This is,
If we did this for Shane, we'd be paying him. If you do it for me, you're not paying me.
I know, but he's the professional, he's the one we pay.
And
to
he's
bring
the one that
forth-
recommended.
Who brings forth this, not the mayor,
Well-
usually.
No, he made the recommendation, and I said I'd carry it through. I didn't ask him to go, he was driving through the project, and he saw the patches, and he brought up the fact that these 2 sections aren't gonna be patched.
yeah, and I don't, again, same deal, I don't necessarily disagree that it's not the right call, I want to get us out of directing Lori's team on where to go patch the roads.
Again, that was a request to the council. And the council said, if they can fit it in this fall, the council voted on that. I didn't direct any team. The council voted on that last month.
It says, I previously requested the potholes in this area be
Right,
repaired.
on an RCA last month, and you agreed to it.
Okay,
But you said aye.
okay, so we agreed to it last.
Because if somebody says, didn't you just do this? Yeah, I requested last month.
Okay,
And so I was just trying to clarify. It, you know, I could say it was requested previously and the council agreed, and they got outright and did it. I appreciate it. I told Lori and I told Eric. I appreciate it. They jumped right on it. And they did a good job. But Shane said there's 2 of them they can't handle.
yep,
But that went through the council. And we actually, what we said is by end of the construction season, we'd like to see those potholes patched. And Lori worked with Eric and got it done right away.
Mayor and council, I had to work with Eric because I received a call that they wanted it done now. Council wanted it done sooner.
Ooh.
I got a call, I think it was from Mary, or an email saying, or you, I'm not sure, I have to look back. One of you sent me an email asking when it was gonna be done. And I said, we were directed end of season, so they went out right away and just took care of it.
And actually, after the last meeting, and when this came up, he had said, I said, I don't know if he can do it, because you said he can't do it by himself.
Right.
And we said, it's end of season, see what you can do. That's the last I had heard, and I was surprised the next day it was done. So,
So, Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Rainville.
I will find the email that I sent to you. I've had residents calling about that area. I emailed both Ms. Strike and Shane questioning why that piece was not done. I did not get a response. I started going back through our meeting minutes and found where that wasn't going to be done. And then, in the meantime, we had the request for council action that council approved last month to say go out and fill those potholes. I still had residents calling me, asking when it's going to be done. I said, I will email staff and ask. I did not direct that it needed to be done that day. I asked when it could be done so I could relay that information back to the resident.
And I think this was part of the communication issue, because in what was approved last month was that staff would take care of it before end of construction season, so that would be a great answer to give residents when they call.
Okay, and Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Rainville.
And I did tell them that, and I did put that in the email. I copied the council direction into the email so that we were both on the same page, just asking when it's going to be done. I don't know when the asphalt plants are closing, so that, what's the last date, what's the end of the construction season? I don't know that, our staff should know that. So I will forward that email back out. I did not direct anybody. I asked something on behalf of a resident. I referred back to previous council action. I mean, I don't know if no one else gets phone calls, but when I do, and somebody asks me to do something, I do it, so.
All right. So I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Good.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Greenberg.
I think it's a great idea that we patch up those areas so all that area down by Rogers Lake be new and no more potholes, be solid. I think Shane's recommendation is a good one. He knows this city's been doing work for us for a long time, so I think this is a great idea.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask one more thing?
Councilmember Blake.
How many bids did we get for this?
To my knowledge, Shane got one.
So Shane got the bid on this?
Yep.
Okay,
And at this dollar figure, that's all that's required.
just one bid? Okay.
Shane took care of all of that. All right, all those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Aye, opposed? Motion carries.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items.
All right, I have a, question that's come up here, because RVIG has decided to provide service to the business district. If you've been following Facebook, the businesses are signing up. And the question is, because September 30th is the end of the summer construction season for internet infrastructure, the question came up, what are we doing as a city? We've had a challenge getting Zayo to the table. I don't know where we sit with them now. They have been sold, and they typically aren't last mile providers. I don't know if they do phone service or if they contract out phone service, but RVIG would like to bid on the city buildings. And so I'm asking that the city staff work with RVIG and Zayo and CenturyLink and do a cost-benefit analysis, compare features, speeds, prices. I'd ask Lori to come up with some numbers, and it looks like it would be competitive. Currently, we're paying CenturyLink $615 a month for city offices for telephone and internet, and the fire station $191 for phone and internet. And the chief said the phone isn't hooked up, so we're paying phone and internet, but the phone isn't connected. And then going forward, I wasn't quite sure, but Lori said Zayo would be $75 per building. Is that to the county?
That's what we would pay the county.
pay the
yes.
county, and then the internet itself for, do you know what speeds that was, 100 up and 100 down?
Yeah,
365 per building?
yes.
Okay. RVIG has symmetrical connections. 100 up, 100 down is 365 per building. 50 up, 50 down is 350 per building, and a single phone line is $41. Asymmetrical connections, say you want 100 up and 20, or 100 down and 20 up, would be like the residential, about $87. So it seemed to make sense to say, if we could service the fire station for less than $365, if we could service this building for less than that, it seems to make sense. The problem is, they need a decision by September 30th, or we go to winter rules.
Okay.
And
Who does
so-
Arvig?
RVIG, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm used to utilities going closer to Thanksgiving, but right now they say their winter rules kick in September 30th. So I would like to recommend that somebody on the council that understands what we've been doing here with internet here in town will work with staff and be authorized to make a decision on the part of council to authorize this by the end of the month if we're going to proceed. So I'd recommend 2 people, if they're available, to work with staff to answer questions for the council, and those 2 people be authorized to work with Lori to move this forward by the end of the month, if that's what makes sense.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Blake.
you want 2 people that are familiar with internet and business district situations? Is this what you're looking for, and has a past with this?
Yes.
Okay.
I would like to be one of those. I've been working on this for quite a few years and have some understanding of it. But I certainly welcome anybody else in the council. But it's got to be something we do in the next 2 weeks.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Rainville.
I would like to learn it, but my plate is full through the end of the month with the festival, so I cannot take another thing on.
This feels awful techy, Joel.
Yeah, he'd be the guy.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Greenberg.
Jason Elders has
Prompted me.
would be great for this position. Now, is there someone in the community that could assist you that's an expertise in this area?
Oh, Dan Bryant.
We could check.
He certainly understands all that stuff.
So what's the ask gonna be? Is this, Mr. Mayor, is this something that Lori can't handle for us?
Well, the thing is, we have to authorize somebody to approve this, because we don't have solid numbers. It's hard to say what we're approving tonight, and this has to be decided before our next council meeting. So it would be authorizing somebody on council to speak for the council to what Lori comes up with of a recommendation. So if she comes up with an RVIG recommendation or CenturyLink Zayo recommendation, the council would authorize it. So you'd basically be, and that's why I say it'd be nice to have a second person, because we could meet without open meeting issues. But it would be understanding the numbers that Lori puts together and speaking for the council to authorize.
Yeah,
Because the council would have to authorize.
Can't we have Lori put the numbers together and make the recommendation to us?
Can, but then we'd have to have a meeting before the 30th to approve it. That's what I say, if you authorize a council member or 2, then we can speak on behalf of the council and say,
I
yes,
got
Lori
you.
puts the numbers together.
I got it.
We do have a meeting on the 27th, a budget meeting, but I don't know, this would need more than that.
Well, that's pretty close to the end when we have to have it anyway.
We're already pretty close, 2 weeks
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Rainbow.
I would move the motion. And I'm fine, you have a long history of working with those providers and working on behalf of the city and its residents and trying to bring internet into them. And if Dan would be available, he would be a good person. I don't know what his work schedule is or anything like that. Again, I'd like to learn it, but my plate is full at the festival. And my internet's down now after the storm yesterday, so it's even worse.
So you're no help.
Yeah.
Mary's got one request, yes, turn it on.
Really?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Alders.
can we get Lori to turn around and just have it as an action item on the 27th? And the 27th is our budget reconciliation meeting, right?
Mm-hmm.
That shouldn't take 3 hours again, I wouldn't think.
So we just have to notice that meeting to include this as well as the budget then. We can do that.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember
Is
Greenberg.
the crux of this investigation to see who's gonna offer us the best service for the best price?
Yeah, because it's understanding, symmetrical connections, asymmetrical. Are you using fiber versus other infrastructure? If you're dealing with a symmetrical connection and you're dealing with fiber, you're not dealing with any interruptions most of us are seeing in the city here. The phone line would also be, the question would be how many phone lines in the city office, how many would we like to have, how many do we currently have, and then we could actually use cloud services. So if you're familiar with the struggle we've had at the office, or if you talk to any of the businesses, the phone systems have been down quite a bit in our business district.
Yeah, yes.
And so this eliminates all that. So it's a technological upgrade, and it's a company that right now is serving our community in the business district. So it's an opportunity to say if it's a good package, and I'm saying if Zayo's looking at 365, and we've been waiting for 2 years for Zayo to come out. If we can get something in this building and the fire station that's a lot less than that, I think it's a reasonable choice, especially with the improvements in the quality of the technology.
Mr. Mayor?
Unfortunately, I just heard that their winter rules go in September, after September 30th.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Greenberg.
I'm comfortable with you doing the research on this, and you seem to be very knowledgeable in the area. And on the 27th, you propose to us what you think is the best option for the city with Lori's input if it's needed, however much
It's
Lori
definitely
wants.
needed, because we need to know what services she's looking for in the city.
So I think between the two most powerful people in the room, they should be able to determine which direction we go.
Oh.
I'm sorry, I can't go to that meeting.
I didn't volunteer for this.
So I propose Mayor Jeff Pilon and Lori Strike, City Administrator, get together on this, propose to us on the 27th what they think is the best option for our internet and phone service, and we vote on the 27th as a council. We agree or disagree or whatever.
Why have it come to us? Let's just give him the,
No,
like you talked, you want it to come back to us?
I want her to give us a download on what we think we should do and have us,
Okay.
I think it's a reasonable request. I like,
Yeah.
All right, so you consider that a motion?
I
Is
consider
that
that.
a second? So we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Done.
that was
Motion
like the
carries.
best delegation of task I did. It's like, come to
He
you.
got him out. He
All
got
right.
out of it.
Another internet.
Now I understand
Question.
why he
So-
wants that quote.
If some of you, if you looked at your emails today, you got something from Deborah Anderson in Rogers Lake.
Yes.
For 6 years, they had a service that went out of business in August. And nobody is begging to come into Rogers Lake right now. We have Comcast in Oak Grove and Ramsey, and we have Arvig across town. So this Deborah Anderson got a hold of Genesis Wireless, Jay, and PCS Technologies, Tim, and they have worked together on projects. Our most recent one was 35. Anyway, they did the whole city. So what they're doing is providing the patch through to when fiber actually becomes available. So it's a wireless system, and what this request is they would like seed money to do an initial evaluation of existing structures in Now Then and proposed structures in Now Then that would get the federal minimum requirements throughout Now Then, while people are waiting to get the gig service that fiber will bring you. This will bring people into potentially 100 down, 100 up, if the cost structure is there. But it will certainly bring them up above the minimum. So right now there are portions of Now Then that up at the federal map are considered unserved, and the majority of Now Then is considered underserved by federal maps. So what they would say, what they're asking is, if we would seed them $1,500 to do the initial study, they would be able to come back to us and say, here's what it would take to cover these portions of Now Then, and what it would take from our federal funds, our county funds potentially, and they would then look to roll that $1,500 back into a package if the city decided to partner with them. So I'm asking for some seed money to get this done. They did, it was North Branch, the city of North Branch, and they actually did it in the winter last year. They were able to install all season long.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Alders.
these are the team that did the Rogers Lake area? This is
No, that guy's out of business.
Okay.
No, these are, so the people that were in Rogers Lake that had that service through T-Mobile,
Yep.
they've been scrambling, and so they came up with this when they found out that they did the city of North Branch.
Okay.
PCS is out of St. Paul. They do the actual plan, and Genesis does the tower work and runs the program.
Okay.
And so what they'd probably be asking once, if they say, we're not a hilly town, so they're looking at grain elevators and silos and maybe a few pole-type towers that they would put in. And then they would tell us what kind of service they could get for what kind of price and what it would take as far as partnering, like we did with Arvig. Is there something we could do with our federal funds? Because they're primarily focusing those on broadband. And this would qualify for that. So I would ask with the source of funding would be our ARPA funds that we just got $250,000 on.
Yep.
They could do their evaluation, they said, within 2 weeks, and we would know something probably by October.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Alders.
So, will these guys pull in Arvig to understand what they're doing as well?
Yes, well, they
So
work with Arvig. Apparently Arvig has quite a few different brand names out there, working in small towns. And so they actually do partner with Arvig in other areas. They wouldn't necessarily do it in the broadband here because they're going wireless, but they would be, they are familiar with working with Arvig in other capacities.
Okay.
But Arvig right now, they are working off the Zayo line that they have dark fiber on that runs up Now Then Boulevard and down 22, and they have up to about 22. Now Zayo keeps going up to St. Francis, but we don't know when they'll get to that part of it. So from there, they have to lay new infrastructure. And that's why it took so long down in the southwest part of the city. They had to put all new infrastructure in. The CenturyLink infrastructure is extremely antiquated and not capable of these speeds or uninterruption.
Well, they're pushing copper or whatever.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Greenberg.
I think it's a great step in the direction we need to go, as Facebook is constantly full of the same comments over and over, which is My internet service is terrible, what is
Yeah.
everyone doing? And everyone answers the same questions every time. I do this, I do that, I do this, I do that. The other set of questions is always I'm not gonna name the company, is suffering, I can't get anything, what's yours doing? Mine got rained on, so it's bad.
Yeah.
Another person, the horse stepped on mine, so it don't work anymore.
What's up with the horse?
Yeah, let's not bring that
And
up.
there's been plenty of chatter
like the
about the
horses.
city needs
Yes.
internet service, so I think this is a great step in the direction of satisfying a clamor of voices out there.
Yes.
Yeah, and there's some money we have available behind it to actually potentially do something when we get the data, right?
Yep.
So, Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Blake.
the areas around here, internet services are gonna get Arvik or whatever we choose.
And
What are they
that'll be-
using now?
Right now, we're using CenturyLink.
But we feel like CenturyLink is outdated?
It's not good. I mean, it depends where you are.
I didn't wanna mention them, but you did.
Oh, I'm not supposed to say a name?
Yeah, it's
Sorry.
not the future. CenturyLink is now Lumen, and they are really looking at commercial properties in bigger areas. This is not, if you talk to the CenturyLink technicians in this area, it's dying out here. It's not the future.
That service wasn't great. It's not bad.
What do you have?
Good time. It's not bad.
All right.
That's what we used to have.
So, make a motion to authorize the 1,500 to engage PCS to conduct the initial evaluation?
Yes.
So I have
I'll make a
Blake.
motion to authorize $1,500 to engage PCS to conduct their initial evaluation.
I second.
All right, we have a motion second. Any other discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. All right, I don't have the RCA in here for this, but technically, the mayor has an office in the basement of this building. And if you've been down that basement lately, it's
It's down there a while back, but
it's a little musty.
yes, terrible.
A lot of holes in the wall.
Yeah.
Lights, kind of like these, but not working very well. And so I would like to clean it up so I can start using it. I've been able to meet with people outdoors through the summer, but it's funny, those are, opportunities are disappearing as the weather cools. So I'd like to get back to using the office like we used to use it, but it really does need to be cleaned up. And so I would like to just give you a heads up that I'm gonna be evaluating. It looks like the carpet that's there really should be ripped out. The chairs we moved down from here are turning moldy. So it really needs to be taken better care of, and I'd like to be able to start using it again. So I'm going to be putting numbers together to come back to the council with, to say minimum, maximum, here's what it would take to get that thing usable again. And so it's more of a heads up. I don't have numbers right now to present or plan to present, but I just want to give you a heads up. If you see me hauling crap out of there to the dumpster, you'll know that I'm starting the cleanup at no cost to the city. But we do need to get the moldy stuff out of this building because it's just going to get into our ventilation systems.
I agree.
All right, any concerns?
Nope.
So a mayor used to sit down there?
Yep.
That's what the main offices were.
That
When we
used to be
first
the
came
main
in.
office. That's where
Everybody's
everybody's over in the city office now. It was down here. Our building official was on this side, and the administrative staff was on this side. And we got them out as soon as we could because it really wasn't for a variety of reasons. So then it was Mayor Schultz took over that as the office. And we shared the desk because that's where the sign was operated. The computers that operated the sign was wired from that desk out here. We couldn't operate it from over there, so.
Did they have like hours?
It was as.
Yeah, you went there to
on call.
get everything.
That's where he did,
Permits or
that's where he did his
anything,
work, and
just
he
like
would
the
meet with
city
people
hall.
there.
No, I don't, he's not asking if the city office had hours, I think he's asking if the mayor had hours.
So it's like, if he has an office down there, why don't you?
Me? I don't know. I'll go help clean.
I'm just, looking at this thing, it's like, we're
And that's
all-
why I want to change it. I mean, that is, it was voted on by the council that is the mayor's office. It's just that it's been filthy. So I've been working out of my own office, so.
So the mayor has had an office in the past. We just don't,
And it was authorized by the council.
yeah.
All right,
Are we finished?
now we have
10:05.
consent agenda 2A, minutes.
Sarah?
We're close.
We're close.
Close.
We're close.
You
Where
can
are
see
we?
it from here.
A and C on the top, Mary brought down at the
Oh,
bottom.
Mary, yeah.
So, yep. So, Mr. Mayor, in the August 10th meeting minutes that are, that relate to the 181st and Bow Street concept plans, what I do not see included in the discussion is that we talked about,
What page are you?
it's on,
Check about August.
Page 4, Wall Street rezoning.
under, it's
Page 4 at the bottom?
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, towards the bottom. Starts with the last motion to the, or the, very bottom is B. Letter
Yeah.
B.
180 First Avenue Bowman
Yep.
Street
Page numbers are at the
rezoning.
top or at the bottom.
Oh,
Yeah.
it is, okay, page 4.
Page 4?
So, part of that discussion was the fact that we wanted transparency, and we always want transparency, and the full packet of the P and Z, for the P and Z, where this was discussed by planning and zoning, was not on the website until 2 o'clock the day of the meeting. And that concerned me because what I didn't want is for residents to believe that we were trying to slip something in under the door. And so one of the reasons I wanted that I voted for the open house is to show that we are being transparent with what's in front of us. But none of that information is included in the meeting minutes. And I would like I would like that reflected in the meeting minutes, that residents were not able to find this information until after 2 o'clock, the day of the meeting. And had I not gotten a phone call on it, I don't know if it would even be there yet now, because it got loaded but didn't get moved up. So it wasn't there for residents to see. And I think that transparency, we should let the residents know it was a fluke. You know, it wasn't there, it should have been. We weren't trying to hide anything.
Mr. Mayor, I thought when we discussed this at the Mary, I thought it got loaded, but it was at the bottom instead of the top, so I thought it was there.
But people don't go look 4 years down or 3 years down to look for meeting minutes. They look at the top, because that's where the current meeting
Okay.
minutes should be, or meeting agenda.
So you're saying that at the bottom, it's literally behind other years?
Yes. I
Okay.
want to say down, it's either 2018 or 2019. So you'd have to go
What
all.
happens with our current website is when it gets uploaded, it goes to the bottom of the page. And so it'll say upload complete, and then you have to go back in and you have to sort and move it to the top. And then you have to make sure you save it, or it falls back to the bottom again. If you get busy, you see it's up there, you close out. Sometimes it's not.
And with our
It doesn't
great
stick.
internet speeds, it takes
It takes all day to load a meeting.
all day to load it.
Yep, we plug it in at 7 in the morning when we get there, and sometimes we have to leave our computers on overnight to keep it loading. If they're 3-hour meetings, they take the entire day to load onto the computer.
Is that
This is just.
server
excuse
speed?
me,
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, well, this is not the video of this meeting. This was just the
Right,
packet itself.
Yeah, and so,
Yeah.
yeah, the
But it's
packet,
that
though,
same process.
It's the
of-
same
yeah.
process, so it loaded fast on there, but like I said, after it's loaded, it goes to the very bottom, and we try to keep a couple of years on there. So then you have to go back in, you have to sort it and move it to the top, and then you have to go down to the bottom again,
Gotcha.
hit save, and
Gotcha.
All right, so in this case, as I'm looking through as we're talking here, there is a note discussion about transparency, and you would like to see that expounded?
Yes.
It's in the
Yes.
second paragraph, start of the third paragraph on page 5. This says discussion about transparency, so what is your request?
That the discussion that occurred in regards to the transparency and the issue that the meeting packet wasn't where it should have been on the website, that was a software glitch. It wasn't anything that was on purpose by anyone. So that the residents know it was a glitch, it wasn't, we were trying to hide something, so that they understand that.
All right, so Lori, is that something that can be fleshed out?
Yeah, you can add that verbiage in there.
All right? Last item, maybe.
All right,
2C,
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Rainville.
in the packet is the resolution where we're accepting funds from the Elk River Youth Hockey Association, and that they're asking for it to be used towards concrete curbing for the ice rink. And I believe that you had asked Lori for some clarification on that, and she was saying that she was getting some bids. I'm just wondering, what are we looking at? I spent many years in the concrete industry, and I am hard pressed to figure out how curbing on the outside of this set of boards is gonna prevent water from coming out. And so I just want more information as to what it is we're looking to do with.
Right, so Mayor and Council, the concrete companies that I've spoken to have stated that they can build it's like a kind of a divot that the boards would actually sit in. So there would be a curb around the outside and a small curb on the inside. So that would keep the board stabilized, and then the water would stay inside too with the liner and not seep out underneath the boards. So that was just a recommendation for the money when we first got the initial hockey money, and we discussed that as a possibility. So if that's not what council wants to do with the money, it does not have to go that direction, but I've started looking for, once we receive this second set of money, I started looking at concrete companies to give some bids in case that's the direction you want to go.
Okay. I just want more info. I'm not comfortable saying, I'll accept this money because it's gonna do this, if we don't even know truly that that's an acceptable remedy to the fact that we're using indoor boards outdoors. They're not stable, the water goes out.
And I don't think in the resolution, or the resolution just is accepting the funds and that they would like it to go towards something for the hockey rink. It's not, it doesn't specify the curbing in here.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Rainville.
it does say it says to be used towards concrete curbing for the ice rink. The second from the bottom.
It says wishes to donate it to the city and ask that the funds be used for ice rink improvements.
Okay.
So it was.
Oh, I see,
It does
concrete curbing down at the
specifically
bottom,
say
you're
that.
right.
I mean, this is somebody else's money, it's not our money, it won't cost us a penny other than staff time, but I don't wanna waste somebody's money on something that isn't right for what, or, that isn't gonna solve our problem.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Greenberg.
to Mary, I agree with you. It takes a ton of work, staff time, gas to and from Markwell to put water in that rink. I was out there 6 or 7 times playing boot hockey. Only once did we see a hockey game actually happening out there. I'm real curious actually how many people use it. This is a big hunk of money. I was under the understanding that this money comes to us from a gambling site because that's what they have to pay us.
Mr. Mayor?
I wasn't under the impression that they could actually earmark where that donation goes to.
They can.
They can?
It's come up with the attorney previously.
Okay.
If it's earmarked, that's where it needs to be spent, or you need to either return it or ask him if he can spend it somewhere else.
All right, so then this
Now,
resolution.
I don't know if we put curbing or they put curbing.
So no, the resolution can be changed and just say, that was the recommended suggestion, was the curbing,
Okay.
because that's what we discussed at the last meeting, or the last time that we talked about this. But they've only asked that it get put towards the hockey arena, the hockey rink. But they didn't specify
Okay.
in what way.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, and then they can ask, sometimes they say, we'd like it to be this, sometimes say it can only be used for this. But if the curbing is our wording, we should change that and say that we're looking at using this to improve the ice facilities, in particular the hockey rink. I don't know what it would take to get hockey teams over here using it. I know Mr. Pratt uses it with his kids quite a bit. And the one Friday we had to chase some hockey players off for the broom ball, but actually you guys went to the other rink.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Greenberg.
we did not chase them off.
That's right, you went to the other rink.
We politely used the, what's it called?
Pleasure rink?
The pleasure rink, and we waited for the hockey players to be done with their game. Then we took over the rink, just so we're clear.
So,
All right.
Mr. Mayor, what's the direction to,
So the direction is this, to change the resolution to just designate that their wishes is it be used towards the hockey facilities and not specifically to the curbing. Lori's going to continue to see if there is a reasonable, and I understand, I mean, last year when it got warm, all the water ran out and we had some big holes in that. It got nasty in spots. So if there's something we can do, it might not be concrete, but maybe there's some way of retaining.
I didn't remember that I had put that in there, but I remember the discussion and I thought that was the wishes, the direction we were
So
going was the curbing.
yeah, because the first time we received the money, they asked that it go towards improvements, and I think that's what we came up with, and then we earmarked some of that money for something else, and now the second shot of it's coming in, right?
Yeah, so I just, when I received the money and the information, I just did the resolution right away and threw it into the packet and forgot that I had added the concrete curbing, but I thought that was what the wishes were.
But do you have direction on what you're gonna do going forward here? Are you gonna research how to retain the water in this thing, or what's the next step? Because I'm concerned we're gonna get this money and it's gonna sit, and we're gonna come into fall, and if we're gonna do something, it needs to happen between now and I'd say November, right?
I think I heard that to continue with the quotes, that I've already reached out to the curbing companies, and bring them back. Maybe, do you want me to research some other options?
Can we see what they're doing at Spectrum, like literally just put an outdoor hockey rink up there last year, right?
but is it just like plywood and?
It's a wood hockey rink, yeah.
A lot of parks are wood.
Yeah,
I believe it's-
yeah, that's what this should have been.
What is this one?
These are indoor hockey boards from the Dunn County Arena in Wisconsin that we purchased off of Craigslist, and they're outdoors, which they're not gonna last per the manufacturer's rep. So that,
Mr. Mayor?
my fear is we're gonna put all this money into it, and then they're gonna slowly.
Deteriorate,
Yeah,
and
and then
then
we
the
got a big
next-
concrete curbing on it, or
That
whatever.
may not work for the next size boards or something?
Well, maybe we should look into boards,
These-
the
This
right
this
boards.
is a big
This is a
rink.
10-foot less than a NHL rink. We don't, the plexiglass, it's not even plexiglass, so that was part of the purchase. They're in either the maintenance garage here, they're in this, they're somewhere, maybe, I'm not even sure where they're at.
Huh.
But we can't use those.
Because they're indoor.
Well, for two reasons. One is they are no longer meet manufacturer specs.
No.
So if they break, they're done. They don't crumble like they do at the Wild Game or however they do it. But they're not, they would not be acceptable in today's age. And in order to put the panels around, we'd have to do wind load tests. Because those are designed for indoors, where there's very little wind. A lot of hot air, but not,
Yeah, really.
you know, during games, but, so we couldn't put them up even.
Okay, so do you have some direction?
So I will, I'll continue with the concrete curbing quotes, I'll receive those, and then research different cities around us. Spectrum is one, and find out what they're doing with their hockey boards.
Okay.
And that could just take a message out to the clerk street.
Okay. So do we still need to approve the resolution to accept the cash?
I would move that we approve the resolution as amended.
Okay.
Second,
Okay, we have a motion from Councilman Rainville, second by Councilman Blake. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
If there's nothing else, I move to adjourn. Anything else?
Well, I'm just gonna say, one thing I noticed again, with all that's been going on with short staffing and stuff, I noticed that neighboring communities are starting to advertise for plow drivers and
Yep.
blanket permits and stuff. Is that something that we're gonna need this year?
Probably, who we have coming in.
Do we think that
Well, I'd split my check with
your staff will be back?
don't, please don't.
Any
I
other-
don't know, I
Yep.
have no idea.
It's fine.
I want you.
Two of these here from 2020, is that just?
Yeah, they were signed, and I need those for the bond, the information. I couldn't find a signed copy.
We are adjourned.
Right.
We off camera?